Welcome to WMAR Classic Games from the Vault. I'm Sean Stepner. This week we are bringing you one of the most intense rivalries in college lacrosse from 2000 between the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays and the Syracuse Orange. Hopkins leads the series with 19 wins, 12 losses, and 1 tie. Our announcing team will be Scott Garceau, Keith Mills, and Quint Kesnick. Enjoy the game.
Two Sports presents the Toyota Lacrosse Primetime Game of the Week. The Johns Hopkins University Blue Jays versus the Syracuse University Orangemen.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Carrier Dome. The colors are green on this St. Patrick's Day, but here in Syracuse, the predominant color is always orange. Scott Garceau and Keith Mills with you from the Dome tonight. And Keith, Syracuse, we heard about their tradition in the opener. It's the greatest that the game has to offer. 17 straight trips to the Final Four.
Well, that's an unprecedented stat in any sport, Scott. And even though it's March Madness in another sport, there's our own kind of March Madness here tonight at the Carrier Dome. Two of the best teams in the history of college lacrosse going at it in an interesting setting here tonight. Cold outside, but it'll be warm inside here.
All right, let's bring in our expert analyst, former Hopkins goalie, Quint Kesnick. Quint, you've played in this building. It can get loud. It won't be packed, but they'll make some noise.
Well, the recipe for success in this building is under lock and key in Coach John Desko's office. Few teams come into this building and win on the road, and Hopkins certainly has their work cut out for them.
Well, we know what Syracuse did. They started the season with a win at Virginia. How about the Blue Jays? How do they match up against the Orange?
Well, Hopkins started off with a loss at home against Princeton, and last week they had a workmanlike victory on the road against Hofstra. Keys for them, I think, are going to be on offense. A.J. Hogan, their best midfielder, athletic at the midfield. He's got speed. He's got experience. He needs to dominate the midfield for Hopkins to be a threat. He and Dan Denahan do the majority of the scoring for the Blue Jays.
And, of course, Brian Carcaterra in goal, and he'll be tested tonight. Syracuse can get up and down the field and put points on the board.
Well, Hopkins needs to play a perfect game, and that's going to start in the nets for Carcaterra. He was admittedly shaky in the Princeton game, letting in 3 or 4 goals that he thinks he should have had. This is a make-or-break game for his senior season. I think Carcaterra needs to show up big time tonight and save about 20 or 25 shots.
All right, over on the other side, Keith, Syracuse, a 3-time All-American pacing their offense in Ryan Powell.
Yeah, the reason Carcaterra has to play so well tonight, Scott, is that their offense is as good as anybody's, led by everybody's All-American number 22, Ryan Powell. Casey Powell, his more famous brother, but Ryan Powell already in 2 games this year has 12 points, 7 goals, and 5 assists. He scored the game winner 2 weeks ago against Virginia in overtime. Number 22 right there, he is as good as anybody. 6'1", 200 pounds, big, strong, and very quick.
Tell us about Mulligan in goal for the Orangemen.
Scott, not as flashy as Brian Carcaterra. All Rob Mulligan does is win. He doesn't have to make 20, 25 saves a game. He just has to keep his team in the game, and he's done that in his first 3 years here. He played all but 17 minutes in goal last year. You see, there he is right there, number 13. 59% save ratio. That's excellent. And Hopkins will have to test the junior today for Syracuse.
All right, there are some of the top players in this one. Back with Quint's keys of the game, and also a look at the starting lineups right after this.
The Toyota Lacrosse Game of the Week, brought to you by Toyota, making it happen every day. CollegeLacrosseUSA.com, the definitive source. STX Lacrosse, we live it, we breathe it, we build it. And Warrior, the means to dominate.
Welcome back to the Carrier Dome. We're just about set to go. It's number 1 Syracuse against number 7 Hopkins. Let's take a look at how they're going to line up in this one. First, Quint, how about the Blue Jays? John Haas, how does he line them up?
Well, for Hopkins, it starts with Dan Denahan. He's the quarterback. He's their leading scorer right now. Had a monster game last week against Hofstra with 6 assists. He's supported by senior Chris Harned, and Bob Benson, a freshman out of the McDonough School, has done a tremendous job in only 2 games. The midfield, A.J. Hogan, we talked about him earlier. Connor Denahan, who's a junior, he's got some knee problems. He needs to have a big game tonight for Hopkins. And then Justin Shaverly's a player who hasn't received much support so far this year. He needs to step up also. On defense, Hopkins struggled against Princeton. Look for Brandon Testa, Brendan Shook, and P.J. DeConza to tighten things up. They may even play some zone defense today. And in the goal, Ryan Carcaterra, 59% save percentage. A little shaky against Princeton, but played very well against Hofstra last week.
All right, there you have the Blue Jays starters. Keith, how about John Desko? How does he line up the Orange Men?
Syracuse has always been synonymous with offense, no different this year. Ryan Powell, as we mentioned, he's the leader already with 12 points this year, but he's surrounded by some explosive sophomores. Liam Banks, number 3, a 5'11 sophomore, and Michael Springer, 6'4", 210 pounds. The midfield, as good as it gets. Devin D'Arcangelo, 6 foot from Corning, New York. Number 16, Matt Coyote, one of the leaders of this team. He's a senior from Yorktown Heights. And sophomore Josh Kaufman, excellent freshman year last year. Billy St. George, one of the defensive players, a starter, 6 foot sophomore from Long Island, Baldwin, New York. John Glatzel from Ellicott City in Howard County. He played his prep lacrosse at Boys Latin. And there you see All-American number 43, Marshall Abrams. And in goal, number 13, as we mentioned, Rob Mulligan.
All right, Keith, now let's get down to the nitty-gritty and get to Quint's precision tune. Keys of the game, how do you see it?
Well, you know, it's going to be a good game. This series is always high scoring, so I expected today's game to be high scoring. If we take a look at the keys right now, Syracuse, I think we'll start with Syracuse on the bottom. They need to avoid overconfidence. As their coach said, we need to play like we are the underdog. Also, they've been in the penalty box, 18 penalties this season in only 2 games. So they need to stay out of the penalty box, make Hopkins beat them in all even situations. Up top now for the Blue Jays, they have to cure the second midfield blues. Only 1 goal and 1 assist for the 3 players on their second midfield. That is anemic. Also, pummel Ryan Powell. They need to play better man-to-man D than they did against Princeton, and maybe insert a zone every now and then to confuse Syracuse.
All right, we'll keep an eye on those keys throughout the game. Right now, we're just about set for the Toyota face-off. Back with this one right after this. We're just about set to go. Primetime lacrosse tonight from the Dome in Syracuse. There's a little snow on the ground outside, but about 68 degrees in here. Not too bad, fellas.
Yeah, it's real cold outside. You see John Haas, his team, as Quinn said, needs to get off to a good start and establish some tempo and take the crowd, and there is a good crowd here, and the emotion maybe out of this game. Quint, you agree?
Oh, yeah. Especially, I mean, if you're Hopkins, you can't let Syracuse get out to a good start. They're coming to this game flying high after beating Virginia in the opener 13-12 and then winning last week over Yale. You look at the series. Hopkins leads the series 19-12-1. The last meeting last year at Homewood Field, Syracuse led that game 8-4 at half, and then Hopkins had a terrific second half comeback and won 12-10.
Tough place to play, but I imagine if you're a Hopkins player, you like playing in this kind of atmosphere. Good crowd. It's a place that's been a real hotbed for sports, whether it's lacrosse, basketball, or football. The East Regionals will be here this coming week in basketball, so it's a great setting for a player.
It's why you come to a school like Hopkins or Syracuse to play the competition.
We're ready to start today's game with the Toyota face-off. Whedon for the Terps and Chris Searcy for the Qs, and Hopkins with the first possession of the game. Shot on goal, a bouncer from Hogan. Wide of the mark.
Face-offs will be important. Look for Hopkins to want to slow the tempo of this game down. It'll be Whedon against Searcy. Whedon struggled against Princeton, bounced back with a real nice effort last week at Hofstra, and Searcy's been terrific all season, 14 of 18 against Yale down in Florida. They played that game at Boca Raton last week.
That's not a bad setting either this time of year. We heard Dave Cottle's team, of course, came from a Florida trip, and now Syracuse back. Hogan, and his shot deflected out of play. It'll go Syracuse way.
Joe Siglia, number 24 for Syracuse. His assignment tonight is to try to stop A.J. Hogan.
And that's sometimes more than one man can do.
That all the time is more than one man can do. So look for Syracuse when Hogan, number 12 for Hopkins, initiates the offense. Look for him to receive support from some of their defenders down below, some big athletes.
Keith, we touched on it early. 17 straight trips to the Final Four. That might be an unequaled mark in all of sports. Unbelievable.
Scott, that's incredible. And the amazing thing is that they've done it with 2 coaches, Roy Simmons Jr. and John Desko, a variety of different players with the same style.
Ryan Powell gave it up behind the goal. Matt Coyote out front, plenty of firepower. We heard about Powell. He's the 3-time All-American, but he has a great supporting cast, and they can beat you so many different ways. I guess they sent the lacrosse world a message when they came out and won at Virginia in the opener.
as Quinn said, Scott, because of the weather conditions up here, it's freezing outside. They usually are a late blooming team, as Brandon tested with a nice steal right there to Brian Carcaterra. They usually get better as the season goes on, and that's not a good sign for the rest of the lacrosse world that they beat Virginia on their home field.
So here comes Hopkins in transition. We're just underway. No score. Blue Jays in possession. A.J. Hogan, the All-American, one of the captains with the Blue Jays.
Testa, Brandon Testa, 39 for Hopkins, winning round 1 against Ryan Powell, number 22.
It's D'Arcangelo now defensively, and Hogan with the left-hand shot on goal, and the save is made by Mulligan. Here comes Syracuse in a hurry. And a good battle for the ball, man.
Connor Denahan is just laying some wood right there, Scott. Connor, as Quinn said, needs to step up with a big one because he did not play well against Princeton 2 weeks ago.
It's going to be a loose ball push against Hopkins. That's Joe Siglia hustling off to the applause of this large crowd. Watch the replay now. Denahan, number 24, will battle against 24 for Syracuse. Right there, potentially a slash, and Shook comes over, number 1, and pushes Siglia.
Good pass in front, and a shot and a score. Liam Banks scores the goal, but a terrific look to hit the open man, and Banks, the sophomore from New York, gets Syracuse off and running.
Quint, they did waste very little time of attacking Brian Carcaterra. Great stick work, what they're known for.
Josh Kaufman on their far side will isolate right to left. He gains a step. The Hopkins defense has to double team. And Liam Banks is so smart in front. This is a kid with, let's say, average athletic ability, but he knows this game so well. He found the seam in the defense, and he knew where the goal was without looking. He turns and beats Carcaterra with a one-touch shot. Beautiful pass by Kaufman, but give Banks some credit for finding the seam.
Ooh. So Kaufman with the assist, and the Hopkins bench explodes as Whedon uses the body. And we're in for a night of physical lacrosse. You can see early both these teams playing at a fever pitch, Keith.
Well, I think Quint will attest to it. He's played in this series. Not a whole lot of love lost between these two teams. You were saying earlier that Syracuse does not like Johns Hopkins flat out. And Eric Whedon right there, Quint, leveling the Orangeman, the offensive player.
Whedon doing it all. 2 vicious hits on the near side. Whedon, we've talked about him many times, an outstanding high school running back. In fact, he was the best football player on Long Island his senior year.
Chris Harnett in possession for the Hopkins Blue Jays. He's a senior from Holbrook, New York. 1-0, a little over 12 minutes left in the opening quarter. Number 1 Syracuse against number 7 Johns Hopkins. Syracuse out to a 2-0 start. This is their first home game. Trying to get it to Harnett up in front. It's loose.
Quint already Mulligan with 2 big saves for Syracuse.
And now we got a penalty marker down. Flag is down. We got a call against Syracuse. 4-3.
Marshall Abrams is going to go to the box. A high hit with the elbow. Watch this replay. The play is there. Nice little pick in front. Fraterola gets the loose ball. And Mulligan, you notice he's a left-hander. Fraterola makes a nice shot. And the ball kicks off of his knee. You can hear it slap against his flesh from up here. It's a stinger. Illegal body check. That'll be a 1-minute violation.
So extra man for the Blue Jays. They'll try to tie it up. Working it around the perimeter right now. Arnett, good look in front. And the shot off the mark. Firing inside was Dan Denahan.
Hopkins extra man, 50% on the season, 5 of 10. Syracuse, as we mentioned earlier in our keys to the game, they've been in the penalty box far, far too much.
And out on top, shot and a score. Firing was A.J. Hogan. He went down low and skipped it past Mulligan, and we're tied at 1 at the 11:17 mark of the first quarter.
If you're Hopkins, you want to stick to your strength, find your big guns, and here's A.J. Hogan from 15 yards, pouncing the ball in the far corner. Superb accuracy. Again, from 15 yards, not the most devastating play, but again, the ball ends up with A.J. Hogan, and it's in the back of the net.
You know, Quint, last year, Rob Mulligan had 25 saves against Hopkins, and that game could have been a rout. He already has started quickly today, so I thought that was a big goal right there by Hogan to put something in against this guy.
And here come the Jays penetrating inside, but can't beat 3 Syracuse defenders. That's Joe Driscoll, number 11 in possession for the Blue Jays. Driscoll trying to get free and bounces one. Go back to Hopkins.
From a physical standpoint, we covered the first Princeton-Hopkins game. Hopkins was a little tentative. You think they're throwing their bodies around a little more today?
Boy, I'm sure that was a point of emphasis in practice this week from John Hawes. Joe Driscoll's got a teammate of Devin D'Arcangelo of Syracuse in high school at Corning East, and he doesn't get a whole lot of opportunity to score, but he really took an aggressive approach on that play.
Blue Jays trying to take the lead here. Behind the headshot, a quick snapper from Dan Denahan. And will stay in Hopkins' possession.
You see a lot of lines on this field. The lacrosse lines are the yellow lines. We've got football, soccer. It's behind the back shot by Denahan. He had a step on John Glatzel, one of the Baltimore products on the Syracuse team. Watch Mulligan come out of the cage to deliver the hit.
And the Blue Jays score while we're taking a look at the replay. Hopkins on top, 2-1. Credit the goal to Connor Denahan, I believe.
And that's something, Quint, you said is essential. We'll take a look at it here. Connor Denahan has to step up tonight, already much more aggressive than he was the first 2 weeks.
Watch it from the end zone view. Denahan just driving right-handed, unassisted, on the run. Again, beating Mulligan down low, and you can see Mulligan throws his head up in the air in frustration. That's one you've got to have as a goalie. Watch his positioning, not bad. He's just late with the hands. You got to be a little quicker with those hands. But Connor Denahan, as you said, one of the keys to Hopkins, because you know Dan Denahan and A.J. Hogan are going to score. If Connor can get on the board, well, that's just a big plus.
So Hopkins with the extra man and the goal, controlling things on their end. And now the Jays come up with the ball. Back in possession, DeConza with it.
A nice play, Scott, from DeConza to clear it out there. And now here comes Eric Whedon, and Hopkins on attack again. And Quint looking much more aggressive offensively than we saw against Princeton.
Eric Whedon, who handles the face-offs for the Blue Jays, but he can do some other things, and he's getting more minutes on the field this year. Dan Denahan working behind the goal.
Hopkins trying to get their second team midfield on, and it looks like they will. And that includes Rob Fraterolo with the ball right there. Jamie Hubbard's on the field, and this is Bobby Benson here. He started an attack. There's number 16, Dave Rabuano, who was back from a slight injury last week.
2-1 Hopkins, 8:55 to play in the first quarter.
If you're John Hawes, Quint, you have to be happy with the start, I would think. Huh? Long game, but 2-1 lead early.
The longer you stay around in a game like this, the more, as we've seen in NCAA basketball, the more good things can happen.
Benson gets checked from behind. Nice defensive play. Siglia forced the turnover. And now Syracuse will go to work.
That was Dan Stesson with the behind the back pass, which I guess is Syracuse is famous for with the Gates and Tom Marechek and those guys. Saw a few of those in your day, huh?
3 or 4 too many.
Pass out front, nothing going on there. Tim Burns with it. Penalty markers down. Is Ryan Powell.
Good call there, Quint.
Oh yeah, Ryan Powell got slashed in the face clearly by Brendan Shook, number 1 for Hopkins. Interesting story about the referees tonight. A trio of brothers, Terry Cullen, Tim Cullen, and Tony Cullen. 52 years of refereeing experience and 10 NCAA finals between the 3 of them. First time they've reffed the game together.
We're going to step out. 8:01 left in the first quarter. Hopkins on top, 2-1. All right, here's what gives Syracuse the extra man.
The slash right there. You can see Shook kind of hooked. Caught Ryan Powell right in the face. The referee only about 5 yards away. That's an easy call.
Now, through 2 games, Hopkins has killed 11 of 12 extra man, so they have been terrific. 92% success rate, and let's see what they can do against high-powered Syracuse Orangemen here. Take it out top. Oh, can't connect as they try to get it to Banks, and it'll go Hopkins' way.
Coyote to Banks. Ball deflects off of Banks. Hopkins now attempting to clear. Syracuse's extra man not as stellar this year as they have been in the past.
And they clear Quint with the goalie in the middle. Boy, that's interesting.
Ryan Carcaterra got it across. And now into the attack zone come the Blue Jays with a 2-1 lead.
25 seconds to go on the penalty, so Syracuse will double team the ball.
If they can.
And now we've got a whistle. John Haas took a timeout, right?
John Haas takes a timeout, obviously, to talk about what he wants to do in this situation, Quint. But so far, so good in terms of defense for Hopkins. You said that was one of your keys as John talks to his team.
We got two coaches here, guys, both in their second year with programs that are always in the national spotlight, and a lot of pressure on these guys. And I'm sure they feel more comfortable the second year around. As you look at John Desko over on the Syracuse side, he took over for a legend.
Yeah, but he was the difference here, Scott, is he's been here for so many years, and Quint will tell you that he's recruited many of the players, virtually all the players that are on this team, and I guess if you want to make a transition, that's the way to make it.
John Desko, 19 years as the assistant coach, played defense here for Syracuse. Last year, regular season, they were 9-4. Some people said, hey, Syracuse is down this year, but they rallied big time in the playoffs. They beat Princeton, they beat #1 seed Loyola, they beat Georgetown, then they lost in the national finals to Virginia.
John Desko may have been here all those years, but now he knows the buck stops here.
Yeah.
Assistant coaches sleep better than head coaches do.
As Brian Billick told us many times this year in football with the Ravens, you know, hey,
sure,
you can always pass the buck to the head coach.
There you see the score and time left here in the first quarter. 2-1, Hopkins on top.
15 seconds left in the extra man for Syracuse, though Johns Hopkins has the ball, and there's that double team, Quint, against A.J. Hogan, but a tough guy to double team.
Oh, what a great dodger he is, probably the best in the game.
Nice screen by Denahan, and it looks like they'll run it out. 3 seconds left.
So they've now killed all but one extra man on the season. 3 games into the year, they've only given up 1 extra man goal. And now Hogan gets offensive with it, and shot knocked down. And it's out of play to Hopkins.
One thing, Quinn, I've always been impressed with Syracuse is the agility and the stick work of the defensemen.
They have free rein to throw checks. So many teams, so many coaches put the reins on their athletes and say, hey, don't make plays. There's a price you pay for that style of defense.
Yes.
One is penalties, exactly, and 2 is you give up goals, but you also manufacture goals. They think that style fits this system. They think that style fits their athletes.
Shaverly comes out on top. There's A.J. Hogan going to work. Good look inside to Benson. Left-hand shot on goal, and Mulligan knocks it down.
Quinn looked like a lot of indecision on Bobby Benson's point there.
Well, I don't know if it was...
Oh! And bodies fly over in front of the Syracuse bench. Right in the middle of that one was Shaverly.
Shaverly got decked by Abrams. Seglia is down, number 24, but Marshall Abrams levels Justin Shaverly. Already, Scott, we've seen 2 or 3 guys flying on the fake turf out here.
Seglia hobbling.
Yeah, Seglia looks like he's got a Charlie horse. Awesome hit on the near side. But the save Mulligan made prior to this play. Watch the hit. You'll see the players chasing the shot. And Abrams just absolutely decks.
Leveled him. Woo.
But Mulligan, what a kick save he made against Benson. Terrific fish hook play. There was a double pick set for the freshman Benson. He had time and room. He stared right into the goal.
He looked like he waited a little.
He almost had too much time, but he fired the ball, and Mulligan got his big foot on it.
So it's still a 2-1 Hopkins lead, 5:50 to play. Trying to muscle inside, but the Blue Jays knock it loose, and Carcaterra in possession. Look at the outlet pass. Right on the money, and here come the Blue Jays.
Yeah, Scott, that's Rich Swetzer clearing the defensive short stick midfielder. Got wrapped in the head, it looks like, but no call.
Sounded like it, too. Donald Scott.
Terrific clear by Schwester. That's what you have to do when you're the short stick midfielder. You've got to get the ball and have the confidence to run from coast to coast.
You know, guys, we saw Marshall Abrams, who's back on defense again. He held Greg McCaver last year to 1 goal in the NCAA tournament. McCaver, first-team All-American, as good as they came last year.
Oh, and Abrams talented with the ball as well. He's a great ground ball man. Loves to pick up the ball and get the fast break generated.
Jamie Hubbard working. Hubbard, a sophomore from Friends School in Baltimore. Now it's knocked loose. And it goes to Syracuse. Quint talked about the yellow line. You see it running about halfway through the end zone, right at the bottom of the official's foot there. So that's the end line. And now we've got an official timeout. 4:48 left in the quarter. It's Hopkins 2, Syracuse 1. Hopkins on top of Syracuse 2-1.
Mulligan makes the save of the game. Watch this action. You'll see at the top of the screen, Benson coming out of the middle. He's got time and room, fires low. You can't always get the stick to the ball, but he gets a foot. Terrific kick save by Mulligan, robbing Benson, the freshman from McDonough, the only player from the state of Maryland starting for this team from Hopkins.
It's ironic, Scott and Quint, that Syracuse has 4 Baltimore area kids and Hopkins only has 5. Syracuse doing a good job of going down and bringing some local guys up to New York.
John Glatzel being the starter from Maryland, one of the leaders of the boys Latin team in 1997.
Syracuse having a tough time.
Yeah, it was Dan Danahan.
Clearing, and it'll go Hopkins' way.
Scotty, Dan Danahan turns defensive player right there on John Glatzel, who Quint was just talking about.
Great forechecking, you'd call it in hockey, but they just kept pressure on him.
Glatzel struggling to catch that high pass. And Danahan comes over, forces him out of bounds. So great hustle by Danahan. Hopkins now with a second chance opportunity. If you're Syracuse, you've got to be concerned. We talked about that overconfidence. They're sloppy. We've seen Coyote miss a pass. We've seen Glatzel mishandle the ball. Mulligan has made 2 or 3 stellar saves. This game could easily be 5-1 right now.
He's bailed him out so far, no doubt about it.
Shaverly with it for the Blue Jays. Right behind it, Dan Danahan, who gets it to Connor. Honorable mention All-American Connor Danahan, 6'2", 200-pound junior, trying to use his muscle back in a little bit. Fires and it's wide.
He read the double team on that, Quint, and got the shot off before it came.
Oh, John Desco's hot. He wanted the call down there. You see him rush over to the official who ruled Hopkins possession.
Yeah, he thought Rob Mulligan had beaten the Hopkins player to the ball.
3:40 left. Shaverly coming through some traffic, gives it off to A.J. Hogan. The book on him, impossible to cover.
One-on-one, absolutely. No doubt about that.
You got to put bump and run and a deep zone on him. Basically, cover him tight. When you get burnt, slide with 2 or 3 helpers.
Connor Danahan got hooked, got knocked down, got the penalty, and fired it in for his second goal. And Hopkins up 3-1.
Great effort, Quint. Just a fabulous effort.
Well, Quint, you mentioned they got to get some help from that midfield, and Connor Danahan stepping up with 2 quick goals.
Exactly. Connor Danahan coming into this game on the season 1 for 19 shooting. He's been forcing some bad shots, but this time he just puts his head down, takes the foul. Syracuse playing defense with their sticks, not their bodies. And the big man from Manhasset right there, 2 goals on the night. Came into this game, as I said, 1 for 19 shooting after a spectacular season last year where he scored more than 20 goals. So in a make-or-break game for his season, to really get it going in the right direction, he has produced here in the first quarter.
You said this was a make-or-break game for Carcaterra, too, as we look at the Toyota face-off. Is this a is this a crucial game for Hopkins?
If they can get a win here, or at least a respectable showing, it's a big step. Remember, they lost to Princeton by a bunch of goals, and then Virginia dismantled Princeton.
Harned with it as Whedon came up with it. Now back to Eric Whedon, who fires. And Hopkins stays in possession because backing up on the play was Dan Danahan.
Whedon brought the heat.
Yeah, he brought the heat, is right. Missile.
Hopkins controlling the majority of the time in this game. That shot went relatively very fast from a guy like Whedon. You don't expect it.
Dan Danahan got position and missed wide right.
We haven't seen Springer from Syracuse, number 10, shoot yet, but
They say he might have the hardest shot in the game, right? 6'4", 210. He's got a lot behind that shot. Hopkins shot on goal. Mulligan with another save. And bounced in front and went by him a second time. All still alive. See him working on that yellow line. That's the end line. It'll go to Syracuse. 2:29 left in the quarter. Hopkins up 3-1.
Smart play defensively for Syracuse. They couldn't scoop the ball, but they perched themselves over it, and you feel pressure from behind. Take the dive, fall, you'll get that call from the official.
Experienced play there by the defense.
Much like in the NFL, if you're a lineman and you're being held, you'll fall to the ground, and you're more likely to get that call.
Hopkins really putting some pressure on Syracuse, making them work on the clear, it appears, in the early going. They forced a turnover the last time. now the Syracuse offense a little out of sync. Firing down low, and Carcaterra up with the save.
And then the ball fake with a stick. Interesting.
Keone with the shot.
Boy, he seems to be feeling it tonight, Quint. He's cleared one, saved a couple.
If the Blue Jays play better defense in front of him, he is a tremendous goaltender.
Well, Hopkins
the knock on Carcaterra has been his defense, and they really haven't given him the support that he needs to shine.
Hopkins has really made their possessions count so far in the first quarter. They haven't been careless.
They've handled the ball going from defense to offense so well, so efficiently.
A.J. Hogan waiting for the rest of his first-team midfield, which includes Connor Danahan with him. Yeah.
Would you like to try to run with him? That's the challenge right now for Keone. And here comes Syracuse. The lead feed a little too long. But recovering is Ryan Powell.
One of the few times, Scott, he's had the ball in the offensive end.
Looks it behind the goal. And they double up. Crosses over to Josh Kaufman. Kaufman, the super sophomore. He had 3 goals, 2 assists in that win at Virginia. Oh, he had a man in front, and he couldn't connect as he tried to get it to Keone.
And Keone wasn't ready, Scott. He was there. Nice feed.
Under 30 seconds now left in the quarter. 3-1 Hopkins trying to fight off final surge here as the first quarter winds down from Syracuse. 15 seconds.
There's the double team with Shook.
And down low for a score. Faked up high and scored down low, and Syracuse cuts it to 3-2.
Springer with the goal on an assist from Kaufman. The key here is Hopkins sent the double team. DeConza, who is undersized, trying to match up with Kaufman. You see Shook number 1 double team. That leaves Springer all alone behind. And the second slide to help out there to support is late, and Springer just sneaks around the goal.
Yes, but unlike Princeton, who we saw a couple of weeks ago do that so well with the double team, Hopkins did not rotate to the open area, and they paid for it.
It is bodies down, and that's going to be the end of the first quarter, and a flag goes down on that final hit, and it's going to be against Hopkins. They nailed number 11, Joe Driscoll, as the quarter ends. So it's 3-2 after 1. Hopkins up by a goal. All right, Syracuse will have the extra man because of this.
Josh Kaufman with his second assist down low to Springer. That's the goal. And then to end the quarter, off the face-off, watch Siglia. He'll just chuck this ball deep. And Driscoll, number 11 for Hopkins, just clubs him from behind. You have to show restraint, especially late in the quarter like that.
It's a meaningless play there.
So extra man for the Orangemen. They got a chance to tie. They're down 3-2 as we start the second quarter. Blue Jays got a couple of goals from Connor Danahan in the first quarter. Faking the shot, now firing down low and a little wide of the mark was Josh Kaufman. Nice fake from Keone to kind of draw the defense and then slid it over to Kaufman.
If you're Hopkins, pick your poison. The key shooters are the right-hander Springer on the near side and the man behind the cage with the ball right now, Ryan Powell.
Keone. Nice passing, but now they can't handle it. Loose ball, we've got a whistle. A hold against Syracuse, Hopkins possession.
So for the second extra man of this game, the Syracuse passing, you can see their coach shaking his head. Syracuse passing, not perfect. Keone earlier misfed Banks, and right there Kaufman couldn't handle the pass.
I thought that was a good pass. I thought he may have lost a little concentration on that, but good point. But they're 0 for 2 now, an extra man, and Hopkins' extra man defense continues to shine.
Down to 5 seconds left in the penalty, and the Blue Jays have fought off another one.
Nice flip there from Brendan Shook, number 1, going back to defense now.
And Connor Danahan takes it behind the goal.
Looks like Quint with the short stick on Connor. They want him to be an offensive presence here today.
That is Connor Danahan. Working him over defensively for Syracuse, number 28, Sam Bassett. Shaverly gives it back to Hogan.
What Quint was talking about, Scott, protecting the clock and playing ball control earlier in the game. He said that, and that's what they're doing here.
Connor Danahan, good look inside. Benson was right there, but can't get it by Mulligan. Robbie Benson right on the doorstep.
2 in a row, Quint, for Benson, where he's had great looks and been unable to put it away.
Penalty marker down, and a whistle stops play, and Syracuse is going to have another extra man advantage here.
Sean Nadlin will get the foul, but Quint, boy, you cannot turn back, squander chances like that.
And that's not like Benson. Last year, the Baltimore Sun Lacrosse Player of the Year. That's the foul by Nadlin. Again, not a good foul. You don't want to take those kind of fouls in the middle of the field. There's no danger just getting in and playing defense.
Yeah, he's no threat to score. He can't hurt you there.
He's no threat. There's no one on Syracuse at that moment.
Absolutely. It's defensive midfield in the game. They need to bring it out and get their offensive players back in the game.
Kaufman back out on top. Keone.
Sideways.
This is just
As Banks, a quick stick off the pipe.
Scott, I was saying this is just a 30-second penalty. It's down to 10 seconds now.
Banks rattled the cage with that one. Oh, look at the ball movement now. He's just zipping around. Kaufman with it. This is Syracuse at its best. Pass in front and behind the back bouncer by Ryan Powell through the legs. We got to see a replay on
that
this
shot
one.
was so bad it was good.
Sounds like Al McGuire.
Seriously, I mean,
The penalty was released, but Hopkins didn't have time to check up. You see the man coming through, perfect pass in between.
well, maybe it was good.
That was his.
That was sweet.
Come on, that's unbelievable.
One hand between the legs of both Ryan Powell and Brian Carcaterra. Double wicket shot. His 100th career goal. What a way to celebrate.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to get number 100.
That is a highlight there.
We've seen jump shots over the cage and behind the head shots, and we got another one between the leg shots. Be careful if you try that one at home.
Only the 5th Syracuse player in history to have 100 goals and 100 assists for his career.
Yeah, that's a brilliant play. Eric Whedon showing his versatility and speed there, clearing the ball for Hopkins.
Keith, first quarter shots, Hopkins 16, Syracuse 3. They really dominated, but yet it's a 3-3 tie.
Yeah, they squandered a couple chances, Scott, as we mentioned. Bob Benson on the doorstep twice.
And now Syracuse checks the ball loose. Hopkins hustling after. Oh, and down goes Shaverly. He got
gets hit twice. The second looked like he got a foot to the helmet.
Shaverly got his head stepped on.
That's
by
not good.
Siglia.
That's not good.
That was an incredible play. Both teams really hustling, though. You see the ball is loose, and this game is just intense and physical.
And the fans are getting into it.
Fans haven't had a whole lot to rally behind. Syracuse noted for their great runs. Haven't had one yet.
Tom Hardy, the midfielder, number 8 in. This is Burns with the right hand. Carcaterra hustling out of the cage. Here he goes. Look out. Brian Carcaterra leading the attack. And now tries to cross it and throws it away as he tried to get it to Hogan. But you see Carcaterra, he can ignite that transition game.
And that was a spectacular save. Burns came in about 8 yards. Hopkins had all 3 midfielders playing defense. They were tired. Burns ran right by him, looked Carcaterra in the eye, and Carcaterra met the challenge. Got sloppy on the outlet.
Yeah,
pass.
I think he had a little bit more time than he thought he had. AJ was wide open in the middle.
But that's the dimension you can see that he can bring to a team.
Those passes are tough, though. You have to throw it to where the player's going to be, not to where he was.
It's like leading a wide receiver, right?
And Scott, coming into this game, he was 25 saves away from tying our colleagues.
We're going to stop the game.
Record.
He passes
Yes,
the
we will.
legendary Quint Kessler.
He may need that tonight if Hopkins is going to win this game.
Josh Kaufman behind the goal. 3-3 tie. A little over 10 minutes left in the first half. About as advertised, the history of this recent series has been close games and a lot of offense.
He's got the 10-10.
Oh, shot the score somehow out of the garbage. Stuart Smith found it and fired it in. Smith from Oak Park, Illinois. Not exactly a lacrosse hotbed, but he was in the right spot at the right time. Take another look, Quint.
This is what time of possession will get you. Watch Hopkins defense collapse, but you don't take the body. DeConza goes for the ball, which is a cardinal sin inside. You must, like hockey, match up man on man and take the body. And let your goalie get the loose ball.
And he had every chance to.
You have no right to go for that ball. You just got to check your man and drag his arms to the turf.
And as a defensive player, that's what you look for. That's one of the few times you're allowed to do that. And boy, he passed up a great opportunity there. Another face-off won by Syracuse.
So 3 straight goals by Syracuse after Hopkins had a 3-1 lead.
And the turnover, the Carcaterra pass to Hogan comes back to Burnham. That was a second chance possession.
Absolutely, good point. You mentioned this series, Scott, 10-10, I was getting ready to say. In the last 20 games, each team's won 10, 5 times decided by 5 goals, or 3 goals or less, I should say.
Including a couple of overtimers in there. Josh Kaufman sets it up and finishing Springer.
2 good-looking sophomores right there. Quint makes this team pretty. If you're a fan, you have to be excited for the future of this program again.
They have an incredible sophomore class. Hopkins is going to call timeout here. A 4-goal run. Josh Kaufman has 3 assists. Springer, a right-hander, but he one-touches this left hand. Again, watch the defense. They double-team Kaufman, but he is adept at passing the ball to teammates, and you can't let that man, Mike Springer, open in front.
5-3 Syracuse. The Lax.com trivia question for today is the all-time leading goal scorers in the history of Hopkins and Syracuse are Terry Reardon and Gary Gate, respectively. Who scored more goals in their career? Figure that one out.
2 pretty good scores right there, Quint.
2 terrific athletes.
Some banging going on, and penalty markers are down. Let's see.
I think Hopkins will get the extra man advantage here, Scott.
Call against Syracuse. Right down in front, we're getting the call.
As I mentioned earlier, the trio of officials, the Cullen brothers, 52 years of refereeing experience, and that is being tested.
Yes, it is.
In this environment.
Yes, it is.
Tony Cullen, former ex-coach at Duke, is really regarded as the top referee in Division I lacrosse.
Hopkins came in 50%. With the extra man, they need one here. They're down 2-5-3. 9 minutes to play, first half. Blue Jays need to reverse that momentum now. Syracuse has run off 4 straight. All started with that goal with 5 seconds left in the first quarter. Look in front. Left hand shot and a score. A.J. Hogan blisters one past Mulligan, and it's a 1-goal game at 5-4.
Second extra man goal for Hopkins. A.J. Hogan, so tough to cover on all even situations. But when you're playing a matchup zone, when you're in a man short, watch the player come out and overplay. He pulls it, cuts on a dime, gains an advantage, and then the accuracy, beating Mulligan down low. Again, we've seen Hogan score so many beautiful textbook goals.
Like a great crossover dribble in basketball right there. Change direction quick and just unload. Boy, that's a play right there.
The ability to change directions and accelerate off a cut, just deadly.
You can't teach that.
No, no, you cannot.
So
already 7 goals this year for Hogan.
Our Toyota face-off. Good battle down there as they try to muscle it out. The wings come in.
Nadlin goes down. The domino effect.
And Syracuse.
You know, Hopkins with 2 extra man goals. If Syracuse continues to foul, this will be a close game. But I think eventually Syracuse will either have to shut off Dan Denahan or A.J. Hogan on those situations and let the other guys, let the Chris Harneds, let the Bobby Bensons of the world take the shots.
Absolutely.
Good strategy.
No doubt, no doubt.
1-goal game, Syracuse up 5-4. 8:25 left in the first half.
And again, Quentin, you're waiting for the second team midfield from Hopkins to produce. You mentioned that at the beginning of the game, and they've yet to actually get involved with the offense.
I don't think that the Blue Jays can win if it's just A.J. Hogan, Connor Denahan, and Dan Denahan. I can't see them manufacturing 13 or 14 goals.
Granarola out to Denahan. Jays retain possession. Graviano.
I guess when you look at the best teams in the country, Virginia goes 6'8" deep at midfield. Princeton, we saw, does that. Obviously, Syracuse does. You have to have 6'8" guys that can play up and down the field, right?
Interesting story today in the newspaper here talking about John Desko slowing down this offense a little bit. More control with the kind of defenses you see now, and more touches on the offensive end instead of that run and gun style that they've been noted for the year.
Yeah, they'll push the transition, but if it's not there, they don't want to turn the ball over. And this team last year learned that. Hey, if we don't have a fast break, let's work it around. Let's make the other teams play defense.
That was an adjustment. No, they can't get it through. Too
Tough
many
pass
sticks.
there, yeah. A couple of their own.
Marshall Abrams with that pickoff. An underrated play if you're a lacrosse defenseman. Get your stick up in the passing lanes and deflect the ball. It's a huge play. By having your stick up, you also deter guys from throwing passes to open players.
Not unlike a rushing lineman in football, right? If you can't get to the quarterback, get your hands up. And now trickles out to midfield. Some pushing and shoving going on out there.
And DeConza, the smallest player on the field, comes out with it. Nice play from number 31, P.J. DeConza.
Christian Ford, look out. Ball checked loose. Blue Jays, Rob Fraterola didn't see the defender there, and he just got a kind of a free check on him. Now that transition that Quinn talked about.
The fans love the transition. You can feel it.
Especially from a long stick midfielder like Joe Seglia. That's what we're talking about.
Made a kayak check. I don't know if we're going to have the replay.
Kayak
there
check.
it is. That was the kayak check where you choke up on your stick like you're rowing your kayak and you throw your butt end at the guy. Don't try that at home, folks. It's a kayak check.
Especially on your kids.
Spin move. When unable to shake the defense is Josh Kaufman. Keone shoots and scores. He put a move on, got some space, and finished, and it's 6-4 Syracuse.
Matt Keone, the most improved player in Division I college lacrosse last season. As a sophomore, really struggled with his shooting. He shot 9% for the season. Last year had almost 20 goals and over 20 assists. This kid can do it all. Pick your poison. Do you go cover Kaufman and leave Keone? If you do, he burns you like that.
And it was against Fraterola, normally an offensive midfielder. Thanks in part to Seglia's clear. Hopkins had no chance to get their defensive middies in the game.
You are picking this game up.
I'm trying.
You are picking this game
trying.
That's exactly right. That is awesome. Keone recognized that too.
Yes,
you can see how hungry he was for that matchup.
And made a quick move, again, like Hogan did with the crossover stick.
A little over 5.5 left in the first half. Syracuse up by 2. Keith will be making his way down on the field. We hear from both coaches, John Haas and John Desko, at halftime. Hopkins stopped the bleeding, got a goal, but Syracuse comes right back. Really couldn't get the shot out. Looked like it just slid out of his stick. And now the Jays in transition, trying to push it. They got the right man. A.J. Hogan looks in front. Oh, a point-blank shot. And Mulligan comes up with a great save. He got the shot there. 18 for the Blue Jays. It was 4. Hogan gave him a great pass, and Mulligan comes up with a terrific save.
Mulligan has been spectacular in front. Watch Hogan finding Christian Ford, who had 3 goals against Hofstra, in front. He turns and just fires that ball. Mulligan just playing solid position. The push call after the shot, Hopkins maintains possession. But again, they've had 3 one-on-one opportunities. They haven't converted. That will definitely come back to burn.
So Mulligan, the junior, coming up big. 6-4, Syracuse still on top. Connor Danahan goes back behind the goal. Near side, Dan Danahan. Looking in front, a quick stick, but no luck for Christian Ford. So he's getting in the right position. He just can't get in the back of the net.
When you don't convert your one-on-ones, when you get stuffed by the goal, you tend to rush your shots, you tend to shoot for the corners, you basically get spooked. And as a goaltender, if you can make that big one-on-one save, you have a huge psychological advantage.
Trying to beat the double team with Shaperly, couldn't get much on the shot. It's back to Syracuse with 4:15 left in the half. And now we've got a timeout. 6-4, Syracuse up by 2. Well, here we go. The all-time leading goal scorers in the history of Hopkins and Syracuse, Terry Reardon and Gary Gait. Who scored more goals in their career, Reardon or Gait? Time to reveal the answer. The answer is Gary Gait. Syracuse from 87 to 90, 192 goals. Terry Reardon at Hopkins scored 184. Both doing some pretty good work.
Looking at the Syracuse and Hopkins career goals scored list, and it's a who's who of lacrosse. Gary Gait, of course, Tom Marachek, Casey Powell, and Tom Corey, top scorers in Syracuse history. For Hopkins, you got Terry Reardon, Brian Picola, Franz Wittelsberger back 73 to 76, and the great Mike O'Neill in the 70s. And for those guys back in the 70s to score that many goals, true testament. The game has changed a bit. We do see more goals.
More offense.
For those records to stand up for 20, 25 years is really incredible.
Looking at turnovers, Syracuse with 8, Hopkins with 6, 3:50 left. Syracuse with a 2-goal lead, 6-4. Blue Jays in possession.
Syracuse playing a zone defense right now.
Hopkins led 3-2 after 1. Shot down low to score. Justin Shaberly went down under on him, and that cuts the lead to 1 with 3:32 left.
Shaberly loves the sidewinder shot. Syracuse off the timeout elects to sit back in a zone, and Shaberly uses the defender as a screen. Watch him. He'll just drop his stick and shoot around Bassett, Sam Bassett right there. Many times when teams switch from man-to-man to zone, they come out and they play zone, but they sort of forget to play defense. When you go out to play that guy, you've got to get in the shooting lane, force the shooter to shoot the ball into your chest.
For Shaberly, 3rd goal on the season. And Syracuse back in possession now. 6-5. Both teams running in some players. Kaufman with it. Sophomore from Carthage, New York. 15 starts as a freshman. Finished 4th with 19 goals. Oh, good pass in front. And wide open, Matt Keone. Where was the defense, Quint? He had a good wide open look and fired in the left-hand shot to make it 7-5.
Josh Kaufman, the catalyst, is absolutely eating this Hopkins defense alive. He has 4 assists of the 7 Syracuse goals. Kaufman drawing a crowd, the other players getting away, and you see Keone filling the seam, cutting left-handed, and he finishes a perfect shot past Carcaterra. But again, Josh Kaufman drawing the double team. Hopkins defense not getting the second slide. They're not helping and rotating ball side for the easy goal. So Keone with the goal, but really Josh Kaufman controlling this game, not Ryan Powell. It's all Josh Kaufman right now for Syracuse.
Lead back up to 2. Time left down in the red lower hand portion. Now it disappears after the screen, but 2:43 left. In front, and another save for Mulligan.
I think Abrams or Billy St. George got a piece of that before it got to the cage.
Fans urging the Orange to push it up. This is Banks. Liam Banks. 2 goals and 2 assists in the win against Yale. Played that one in Boca Raton. Going to work. That's Ryan Powell, the 3-time All-American. He's getting worked over pretty good. And a timeout. John Desco stops the clock with 2:01 left. I think he saw his All-American getting worked over on that double team and thought maybe he'd protect him a little bit, Quentin.
And Powell didn't like the timeout call.
Let me work, coach.
Exactly. That's a situation where the coach made the decision, hey, my player's in trouble, and Powell turns almost and says, what do you mean, me in trouble?
Me in trouble?
I'm not in trouble. What do you I had him exactly where I wanted him.
I'm a 3-time All-American. I give trouble. I don't get in trouble.
Here's the play. Testa doing a nice job today covering Powell right there, his ankle breaker. Watch these cuts, quick cuts, and Shook, the quick double team, number 1 for Hopkins. They're on him, and watch, he sneaks away from this. Deceptive strength and quickness, and right here he turns, he's saying, hey, why the whistle? that would be much like Allen Iverson going to the goal or going to the hoop and being double teamed.
Coach calling timeout.
Coach, why the timeout? I had him right where I wanted him.
Talk about Ryan Powell, 21 hat tricks in his career here at Syracuse. Got his 100th goal earlier in this game. 7-5, under 2 minutes left. Syracuse in possession.
Hopkins now playing a matchup zone defense.
I was going to ask you, who has shut down Powell? Has it been just one man, or have they kind of switched off?
It's been Testa with a quick double team from Shook.
Oh, they got it in close, and Banks fired wide right.
That's a breakdown in the zone defense. Someone has got to come across the front of the cage. Banks with plenty of time from a severe angle, but he was real close to the cage.
Good core of this team. Sophomores. Banks, another one of those sophomores. We talked about Hoffman. Springer, another sophomore. So they're going to be good for a while, as they have been for 17 years, going to 17 straight Final Fours. A little over a minute left. 105. And a shot in the score. There he is, Michael Springer. They say he may have the hardest shot in the game, and he fired that one past Brian Carcaterra, and it's 8-5. Hughes leads by 3.
A frozen rope that stings Carcaterra in the arm. You can see him shaking it off. This is the best solution to a zone. Pop, stop, and drop from three-point range. Springer, the long arms, the full extension, and it's just a cannon, an absolute laser past Carcaterra. Syracuse dominating the second quarter. 6 goals to 2 for Hopkins. Watch it, one more look. Hey, if they're playing a zone, get the ball to your shooter, step up and fire it. And that trickles off of Carcaterra's shoulders. Just too much heat, too much power by Mike Springer.
So the Blue Jays and Orangemen huddle up. There's John Haas trying to get his team back on track with 103. They obviously don't want to see it slip anymore, and they'd love to cut it to maybe 2 goals before the half is up.
Last season, we said earlier, Syracuse led 8-4 at half.
8-4, yeah.
In the second half, Hopkins did that zone defense. Springer was not eligible last year to play due to disciplinary action. So this year, Syracuse counters. They say, hey, you want to play zone? Fine. Here, Mike, come in and take that 12-yard shot. And you can see the difference that Mike Springer makes for Syracuse attacking the zone. You've got to come out and play him, and that'll open some things up inside later. And
you mentioned his size. He can take advantage of that physical matchup. 6'4", 210 from 12 feet. That stick almost reaches the cage. 12 yards.
Exactly, and it gives him the ability to shoot over or around a defender. So tough for a goaltender in that situation when Springer gets the ball, can stare down the goal and find the open spot.
So our Toyota face-off now with 103 left. Hustling in on the wings, and it looks like Hopkins will win this face-off. Nadalin, penalty marker down, the long stick shot, and Nadalin upset he couldn't get it by Rob Mulligan, who's been up to all the challenges.
That was a magnificent save from point blank. I mean, Nadalin basically ran this ball into the goal and fired, and Mulligan stayed with him. There's going to be a foul against Syracuse, a hold right off the faceoff. Watch Nadalin here, a former midfielder, so he likes to go to the goal.
Oh,
the hold right there by Bassett, exactly. And now no one picks him up. Watch this save. This is incredible. Nadalin from about 5 feet, and somehow Mulligan just has the patience to stay with him.
Looked like it got a piece of the right pipe too on the bounce. So close, but again, Mulligan has had about 5 spectacular saves here in the first half. So the extra man for the Blue Jays and a chance to cut into an 8-5 Syracuse lead. There's a shot up high, and Mulligan comes up with that one. Shot was taken by Robbiano. And Syracuse will have possession. Whistle stops the clock, 24 seconds left.
Mulligan is on fire. A very emotional. He loves to talk to his defense. He loves to talk to the opponent.
And Ryan Powell taking it to the goal. Check from behind, retains possession. 12 seconds left. Powell's running out the clock. Now looks for the goal, and it's picked off by the Blue Jays, and that should do it. Hogan fires on goal, and Hustling back was Mulligan. That would have been a disaster. That's it. That's the end of the first half. So Syracuse, as Quint said, they caught fire in the second half. 6 goals in the second quarter. 6 goals in the quarter after Hopkins led 3-2 after 1, and that's what they're capable of, right? They can get you quick.
And the difference in the game to me is Mulligan. 4 or 5 point-blank saves, robbing Benson twice, robbing Nadalin on that last play, robbing Christian 4 from the inside. Hopkins scores those goals. We're tied up, or the Blue Jays have the lead.
All right, Keith Mills down on the floor of the Carrier Dome. Let's go down to Keith.
John Haas of Johns Hopkins. John, what do you tell your ball club right now? Down 3. You played so tough, though.
We did. We play with a lot of intensity and a lot of emotion, and we just got to carry that through the second half. You know, they're an awfully good lacrosse team, so we've got to minimize our mistakes right now, and hopefully we can get back in it.
Okay, go talk to your team. John Haas, his club down 8-5. We'll be back with a good second half time show for you, including a feature from Rick White and the Carrier Dome. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Toyota Lacrosse Game of the Week, brought to you by Union Memorial Sports Medicine, outstanding in the field. Lax World, the lacrosse superstore, and U.S. Lacrosse, the support behind the sport. The Toyota Halftime Report is brought to you by Toyota, making it happen every day.
Welcome back to the Carrier Dome, home of basketball, football, and tonight lacrosse showdown. You see part of the crowd here, the students on break, and there's snow on the outside, but it's nice and comfortable inside the dome. Well, so far the Orangemen have the air. 8-5, they're on top. Quint, you played in this house. Any memory that any particular thing that sticks out for you?
2 additions, the noise in here being unique, and also the lack of a crown on the field. This field is perfectly flat. That can affect some bounce shots and cross field passes, but I think we struggled back in the late 80s with the noise more than anything.
This week's Union Memorial Sports Medicine outstanding in the field scholar athlete is Rich Swester. Rich is a Johns Hopkins University senior, majoring in political science and carrying a 3.34 grade point average. Union Memorial Sports Medicine congratulates scholar athlete Rich Swester for being outstanding in the field. 8-5 our halftime score. Syracuse on top. We'll return to the Dome right after this. Well, Syracuse was 6 goals in the second quarter. They're on top 8-5. Let's take a look at some of the first half highlights. And we start with the man in goal, Rob Mulligan. He seemed to come up with save after save, several spectacular.
Crucial kick save. Bobby Benson, the far side. The freshman robbed twice from close range. Mulligan with about 5 point-blank saves, the difference maker.
Early candidate for goal of the year.
Ryan Powell between the legs, one-handed, between his legs, and then Brian Carcaterra's the 100th goal of his career.
And then an extra man goal for the Blue Jays, A.J. Hogan.
This cut the Syracuse lead to 5-4. Hogan unstoppable in all situations. 2 extra man goals for Hopkins. Remember, they led 3-1, and then Syracuse has dominated since that point.
Some of the first half stats, big advantage for Hopkins, even though they're trailing 28-13, but there's the number you're pointing to me as a former goalie.
28 shots for Hopkins, but look at the save. Mulligan with 10 saves. The Blue Jays have missed the goal quite a bit. Really, the difference has been Hopkins has not capitalized on their high-quality shots.
And one other note, Hopkins continues to do a great job against the extra man. Syracuse 0 for 3. They've only given up 1 extra man goal in 2.5 games now this year, the Hopkins defense.
Syracuse, if they continue to foul, Hopkins can keep this game tight. But that man right there, Ryan Powell, really not performing numbers-wise with only 1 goal, as we thought he might. Josh Kaufman has been the story for Syracuse. 4 assists, feeding Keone twice and Springer twice. And Mulligan, you can see he's got his leg wrapped up. Seems to be taking a lot of saves to the body, but he has been really spectacular for Syracuse.
Quint, it was a 3-1 Hopkins lead, and then with 5 seconds left in the first quarter, Springer snuck one in, and that's kind of when they started running, came out red hot to start the second quarter.
Yeah, exactly. A 4-goal run by Syracuse, Hogan's goal, and then they scored 3 out of the last 4 goals of the quarter. The real key now for Hopkins is, hey, what defense are we going to play? We're having trouble matching up with Josh Kaufman in the man-to-man scenario, and then we showed zone towards the end of the second quarter, and Springer stuck one from the outside. side. So I think Coach Hawes and his staff sat down at halftime and they had to say, hey, our kids are playing hard, but what defense do we come back with?
Well, a lot of coaches have asked that when they played Syracuse, I guess, over the years. How do we stop? If you stop this guy, it's like the old tube springing a leak. You put your finger on one hole and two more pop open. Let's go back down on the field. Keith Mills.
Yeah, with me, John Desko. John, you spot them a 3-1 lead. You know it's a long way from over, but you have to feel pretty good in the second quarter you guys put together.
Well, I think we started to adjust a little bit. We were very tentative in the first half, and especially the first period. I thought for being at home, a couple too many turnovers. So we had the dropsies a little bit.
What'd you tell your team at the half?
Well, we just need to keep executing. We definitely need to get a couple more possessions off the face-off. I think that will help us. Hopkins had the ball quite a bit in the first half and controlled it. And we played a little bit too much defense.
Okay, you got to go with your ball club. John Desko, thanks as usual. John Desko, his team up 8-5. We'll be back with the second half face-off when we come back.
The Toyota Lacrosse Game of the Week, brought to you by Lax.com. Stuff for junkies. Union Memorial Sports Medicine, outstanding in the field. And Laxnet.com. If you can't catch the game on TV, click on Laxnet.com.
Second half underway. Syracuse on top, 8-5. Totaling some of the numbers in the first half. Kaufman with 4 saves, really keying the Syracuse offense. Keone with 2 goals and an assist, and Springer with the hat trick. Big second quarter after Hopkins led after 1. Syracuse scored 6 second quarter goals. This is Liam Banks. DeConza working defensively against him. Here John Desko say felt they had to do a little better job with face-offs in possession.
Yeah, they won that first face-off. Nice possession here. They've already killed a minute with this possession.
Keone switches over to the right hand. Shot and a score. Liam Banks went up top right-hand corner and beat Carcaterra.
Terrific possession for Syracuse. 1 minute and 15 seconds. They get the ball. Everyone touches. They're very patient. Keone draws the defense. You can see DeConza, number 31 for Hopkins, lets Banks get open on the near side. And Banks realizes he catches it, steps, resets his feet, and beats Carcaterra high and to the off-stick side. Again, just too much on the heels for the Hopkins defense. Anytime the guy gets the Liam Banks gets the ball in front of the goal in that kill area, there's got to be some physical intensity there.
Banks' second goal of the game.
Yes, sir.
And possession goes to Syracuse. John Desko, what's he upset about?
Desko, only the 4th head coach in the history of Syracuse lacrosse, which dates back to the 1920s. Laurie Cox, and then Roy Simmons Sr., followed by Roy Simmons Jr., and then this man, John Desko, 19 years as an assistant.
There's something for stability, isn't there?
Ooh.
Yeah. And when you win the way they've won around here, you're not looking to make changes. Ryan Powell, bounce pass. Again, a lot of patience. Syracuse first 2 possessions.
Hopkins in his zone. They showed man-to-man on that first possession. Now they're packed in the zone.
Powell tried to get it in front to Burns. Hopkins unable to pick up the loose ball. And there's a shot from a tough angle. It's out of play. It'll stay Syracuse way. Liam Banks looking for back-to-back goals.
Coach Volker on the sideline. You see him on top left of your screen. He's got colored cards. He's signaling the defense. They're going to try to switch back and forth from a man to a zone, confuse Syracuse. But as this deficit grows deeper, it's going to be tough to play a zone because you forfeit time of possession.
How do you compare the dynasties, Keith and Quint, the way Syracuse is dominant, and then of course Princeton coming on and winning the national championships that they have recently.
I think it comes down to consistency, and they're attracting the best players in the country. Quinn, I would think that would be the case. Hopkins has always done that. Those two teams now are invading their turf, I would think, in terms of players.
Yeah, well, to me, Hopkins was the team of the 80s. Princeton was the team of the 90s. But Syracuse was the team of both decades.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, to say that Syracuse was the team of the 90s is downright incorrect, because Princeton won, what, 5 national championships? And to say that Syracuse was the team of the 80s is incorrect, because Hopkins won the most.
But they've been the most successful program over the last 20 years.
Yeah. Exactly.
17 straight Final Fours. Their championships 83, 88, 89, 90, 93, and 95. So they haven't.
And that's difficult for the people in Baltimore to handle, because quite frankly, they think the game, you know, is invented there. And
hey, it's going to be 18 also. These folks in the crowd here can probably make their reservations down at College Park.
When I was on the field, guys, I said it's a very confident,
what a save.
Solid lacrosse team.
Carcaterra, that was a no-look pass out front. And then a hard shot that Carcaterra answered from Burns. And here they come on the break, and Carcaterra makes another save. Out of the goal he comes. Spin move, and now he's leading the attack. Brian Carcaterra trying to put some life into the Blue Jays. Taking it into the attack zone, and now gives it up at the 35-yard line.
And now he's got to hustle back, guys, because of that. A real smart timeout by John Hawes there.
And John Hawes, he's upset. Hawes is hot down on the Hopkins bench.
That's got to be
wanted a call, maybe.
Probably Quinn, plus just a savvy kind of a play there by that guy, Brian Carcaterra.
Well, Carcaterra makes the big stop against Springer, and then really trying to push things, trying to wake the team up. They've been in the funk for over a quarter now, trying to get the team fired up. I can't blame him at all for making this play, trying to go coast to coast.
Yes.
Watch the pass. Well, we didn't see the pass. It looked like a no-look pass. I thought he looked off the defense.
There was the first save, but then Hopkins turns it over on the clear. Shook on the far side. I don't know what he was looking at. That's what we talked about, the noise here. A lot of times teammates will communicate with one another. Hey, there's a guy in your back. Hey, there's a guy coming. And with the noise here, it's difficult to hear that. And it looked like Shook just didn't see the Syracuse player. Next thing you know, Springer's coming in, but that man right there, Carcaterra, rose to the occasion. You can see he's fired up.
Yeah, he wants, you know, he's telling his team, hey, let's get serious, fellas. We're about ready to get run out of here. Have some pride in what you came here to do.
Hey, we should remind everybody, primetime lacrosse tonight on 2 Sports. We're back at it Sunday afternoon from Georgetown. UMBC, Don Zimmerman's Retrievers, down against a very talented Georgetown team. So that should be a good one.
Yeah, guys, and if you want to talk some lacrosse after this game, you can call WJFK Radio 1300 AM and talk with Gordon Boone, Mark Dixon. Mark here along with Jody Martin doing the game from the Dome. Back to our...
An old softy.
An old...
Steve Stopberg.
Steve Stopberg himself. There's the play, Quinn. We've seen him do this a couple of times.
Now, how far do you get to upfield where you're trying to get your team going, but then it gets a little shaky having you up around the 30-yard line down the wrong end?
He made the right play by flipping the ball off. That's when you got to get back in the goal and go to the oxygen tank.
He continued on in the offensive end.
Exactly. It was almost like he was running straight for the locker room.
9-5. Syracuse has the lead. Hogan left hand and over the mark as he takes a shot, and down he goes.
Did he ever take a shot? AJ trying to make something happen. Took a shot from Seglia, who seems to be in a lot of places tonight, guys.
Seglia, not the biggest guy, number 24 for Syracuse, a heady player. And hitting isn't about size or speed, it's about timing, and he really timed that well. He knew Hogan was defenseless.
Hey, Seglia
shot that.
Seglia shut down Josh Sims last year from Princeton in the NCAA Final Four. He can play, or the first round of the tournament. He can play.
Hopkins on the attack, and the Blue Jays throw it away. An unforced error.
Connor Danahan could have pulled the trigger there, Quinn. Instead, he decides to pass the ball, which I thought was a pretty good decision.
It was the right decision. The execution wasn't there. You can see his knee was wrapped. Danahan missed 2 weeks of preseason practice with some tendonitis. He's been rusty. Right there it showed as he missed his brother behind the goal.
And again, Seglia was the defender who came out and cut the angle off, made it difficult pass from Danahan to make.
4-goal advantage for Syracuse.
Hopkins packed in the zone. Syracuse will show patience. Somebody's got to draw the double team and then look for the ball movement. Identical to attacking the zone in basketball. The only advantage in lacrosse is you can attack from behind the goal.
This is Springer. Big first half for the sophomore.
It's almost like they're playing a man down here in an interesting situation.
The best defense they play is when they're man down.
Yeah, you're right.
They've only given up 1 goal this season. The cutter, left-hand shot, a little wide by Keone. You got a timeout, clock stop, 8:54 to play in the 3rd quarter. Syracuse 9, Hopkins 5. There you see the time left in the 3rd, 8:54. Syracuse on top, 9-5.
Yeah, videotapes of the Toyota Lacrosse Game of the Week are available for purchase through WMAR's retail partner, Lax World. You can get the tapes by calling Lax World at 1-800-PLAY-LAX. That's 1-800-752-9529. And we, gentlemen, got a lot of calls last week from fans wanting some copies of what we're doing here.
Hey, I want a copy of last week's game just to see that hit over and over again. That was a devastating hit.
I want to see Ryan Powell's 100th goal a couple of times too.
Yeah.
Backward and forward in slow motion, that between the leg shot.
What we're finding, guys, a lot of high school coaches, college coaches using the tapes for instruction tools, and that's good to hear.
Now they work it around the perimeter. Patience against the zone, right? Find an opening. There's some penetration. They break it down. And Carcaterra with the stick save on the low shot from Banks, I believe it was.
Carcaterra's going to make those severe angle saves. He's really quick on the pipes, plays terrific position.
And then they throw it away, Quint. Another unforced error.
You can't have those. You work so hard on the defensive end to stop. Carcaterra comes up with a brilliant save, and then DeConza just doesn't show any value for the ball whatsoever. Very frustrating. The gray hairs will start to appear by season's end for Coach Hawes.
You want to make things happen. You want things to, you want to make your mark in the game, but you have to use some real restraint what you do.
That looked like a real aggressive save from Carcaterra. Really came out and challenged the shooter. And there's a shot and a score. Boy, there was some mustard on that one. Ryan Powell put a howitzer past Carcaterra, and it's a 10-5 Syracuse lead.
Powell stung the upper pipe. You could hear it from here. Watch the replay. Again, they're in the zone defense. Springer to Powell. 7. Brasco's late to get there, and this is just a scorcher. It's top shelf. Watch the end zone camera. That is perfect placement. 95 miles an hour. Nothing Carcaterra can do.
And Quint, we've seen him go behind the goal and create. We've seen him out front between his legs. We saw him right off the wing there. He's a threat anywhere on the field. His 101st career goal.
Syracuse has now scored 9 of the last 11 goals in this game to take a 10-5 lead.
They have scored 10 goals on 21 shots. Deceptive stat in this game. Hopkins, 27 shots. They didn't capitalize on those one-on-one opportunities early, and that's come back to really haunt them.
Has Syracuse done what you suggested? Take Hogan and Denahan out and make the other players beat them? Of course, they haven't had a ball
possessions.
Yeah.
Since the first quarter, this game has just been a complete whitewashing by Syracuse.
There's a good look in front. Oh, and Chris Harned was right there, and Jay's got to finish. They've had too many of those.
The third time we've seen a Hopkins attackman get the ball on the doorstep. Bobby Benson had two quick looks stopped by Mulligan. That one was just wide, Quint.
You know, coaches criticize players for putting the ball behind their back, but this is one shot where his angle would improve if he put the ball behind his back. That's the only shot that I recommend high schoolers put the ball behind their back.
The good part about that play, they got a real good look. It's probably the first possession this quarter.
And Denahan penetrated, but couldn't get much on that one, and it bounces out of play. Back to the Blue Jays with 6:27 left in the 3rd.
Still a lot of time. We saw Hopkins last year down 8-4 at the half. but with a different kind of an offense. Matt O'Kelly last year, Dylan Schlott, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, 40 goals and 20 goals. That's 60 goals that aren't on your offense this year.
And
you have to make
Mulligan's on his game tonight, too.
Exactly. And Mulligan last year in the second half just went to Swiss cheese. I mean, he didn't make a save the whole half. Hopkins made every single shot. And I just don't see that happening today with Glatzel and Abrams. But you never know. Let's see what Hogan can muster.
There's AJ. He's one-on-one right now. Let's see if they slide some help over. Got inside. Mulligan getting worked over as he brings it upfield. Rob Mulligan making like Brian Carcaterra. There's a check. Mulligan gets it back and a nice pass. And into the attack zone. Bouncer in front.
And that was Abrams with the bounce pass, Scott. Again, long stick defender, showing his agility.
We've seen Syracuse use the turf several times. Bounce passes in around the goal, that time upfield on the bounce.
Absolutely.
Coach Desko will have flashbacks to the Rick Beardsley and Pat McCabe era with those bounce passes.
Penetration, and there's a shot in the goal, and that's exactly what the Blue Jays needed. Connor Denahan went right through the defense.
And Quint, Scott, sorry to cut you off, second time he's done that offensively, beating his man one-on-one.
Actually, the third time. Denahan now with a hat trick. Watch him just dodging left-handed against Bassett. Right there, the stick check comes, but it's not enough. You got to take the body on a guy like Connor Denahan. Here it is again, slicing through the middle of the defense. No help from Mulligan. Perfect placement. Watch his shot to the lower corner, jams the ball in the back of the net. And for once, Hopkins capitalizes on a close-range shot.
But here comes Syracuse right off the face-off.
There we go.
Big save and out and running.
Need some help again, Scott. There we go.
Okay, yeah, 50-yard line was far enough that time.
Finally, some momentum for Hopkins here in the second half.
That was a huge save right after the goal. That could have knocked the life right out of him.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
They need to tie together 2 or 3 goals here.
And the second team midfield, you see Hubbard on right now, needs to do something here, Quint. As you said, they need, the challenge is there. Hubbard, Rabiano, and
Driscoll and
Fraterola.
Ball loose. A deflection back to Hopkins. And we've got a timeout. 4:43 left. Official timeout. Syracuse 10, Hopkins 6. Back in a minute. Syracuse on top, 10-6. Carcaterra made the save right off the face-off here after the Hopkins goal.
The hand-eye coordination of the little guy is just incredible. Going down to his knees, but keeping his eye on the ball and having the hand-eye to follow that ball as it bounces to the top portions of the goal. Terrific save by Carcaterra, who's kept Hopkins in this ball game.
Blue Jays down 4. And now a loose ball. And a loss. That's Robbie Benson.
Syracuse in a zone defense of their own.
On top, a bouncer off the mark. Fraterola.
Trying to make something happen. Rob Fraterola went from that second team midfield spot.
Syracuse blocks a ton of passes. Glatzel 18. Abrams is in the middle of this defense. 43. They get their sticks in the passing lanes. That shot partially deflected.
And Denahan bounced it wide to the right side of Rob Mulligan.
And Dan Denahan looking for his first goal tonight, guys. He's been kept quiet. Abrams, Glatzel, that defense done a good job on him.
Good look inside and yet got nailed.
Boy, did he.
Fraterola just as he let it go.
Syracuse switching back to the man-to-man right now.
Shot Desko, he must have liked that. Somebody go. Bodies down and
yeah, the ball's in the crease. And Hopkins.
If we have a replay of this, Marshall Abrams actually dives and makes the save.
Absolutely.
It was a real exciting play. Watch this replay. This ball, as Mulligan comes out, Driscoll manages to backhand this ball, and there he is to make the save. He then uses his free hand.
And a quick goal for the Blue Jays. So they're jumping back into this thing. It's 10-7.
Dan Denahan, his first goal of the game, right-handed, unassisted. He has 2 assists. He's been relatively quiet. He's riding a hot streak coming into this game. Watch it again. Full speed off of the end line, isolating against Glatzel. He gets top side, beats Mulligan to the stick side. And that's one Mulligan. You can see the frustration.
Yeah.
And the defense is not bad by Glatzel. He's there. He sticks in the numbers.
Maybe Mulligan starts thinking a little bit right now, Quint, like last year at Homewood. Maybe things can change. Big Toyota face-off here, Scotty.
10-7, Hopkins with the last 2 goals, and the Blue Jays' Eric Whedon comes out of the pack with it.
And the good thing about that offensive series, guys, is that Hopkins' first team midfield had a nice rest, and they're back now, and they could cut the lead to 2 here.
And Denahan trying to find some space.
Oh, great pass.
Out in front, Benson had a stick on it, couldn't control, and Syracuse pushes it up.
Benson almost made the incredible catch, but he was triple teamed. Denahan has got to show restraint there, carry that ball behind the cage.
Trying to force the issue a little, right?
You saw the defense just converge like a pack of vultures.
Piranhas.
Well, the Blue Jays can get a goal and maybe be down 2 going into the 4th quarter. They might feel like they're ahead coming back.
Absolutely.
From 10-5.
The key to this whole thing has been that Syracuse offense has been off the field. They've controlled the pace, controlled the tempo.
This is Hardy. And Powell up front and the save. And on the rebound, Syracuse opens up a 4-goal lead.
Liam Banks with the rebound. Carcaterra, so sharp, makes the initial save against Burns. Terrific ball movement by Syracuse. And look at the shot. Well placed. Carcaterra's there. And Banks always in the right place at the right time.
A little bit of bad luck that time, yeah.
It's the second garbage goal by Syracuse. Banks in the right place at the right time. Look at him. He sees the shot, and like a good rebound, exactly, like a good rebounder in basketball, he turns, waits for the play. He's thinking ahead. That Liam Banks was in the right rebounding position before the shot was even taken.
So a hat trick for Banks, coming off a 4-point game against Yale, 2 goals and 2 assists. So 8 points in the last 2 games for the sophomore.
Ward Melville, they produced their share of outstanding lacrosse players in New York.
It's a little over 2 minutes left in the 3rd quarter.
There's that bounce pass again, guys, we've seen a couple of times. Of course, for John Haas, you hate to see the Syracuse offense with the ball because they have been very efficient in the last two quarters, quarter and a half. They've been dominating.
Their attack has been varied also, which is so tough to stop.
1.5 minutes left in the quarter. Ryan Powell. This is Stuart Smith. Smith had a garbage goal earlier in the game. Hardy down to 1:10.
Hardy, another one of the sophomore we've been talking about the entire night, Scott.
Springer, Kaufman.
Banks trying to muscle in. Good defense on him.
There's the double team.
And it's picked out. Carcaterra stepped out and checked away from him. It'll be Hopkins'
Great
possession.
play by Carcaterra.
Superb
Stepped into the passing lane, yeah.
He sensed that anytime your defense doubles, the offensive player will usually turn and throw back to that guy. Carcaterra was there to make the play.
And
terrific anticipation.
And the double team has not been a real defensive weapon tonight. Syracuse has read that 3-4 times tonight. And that time, Brian makes a big play.
Big stop for the Hopkins defense there. One of the few since the first quarter.
Yes, 40 seconds to go in the quarter.
Jays down 4. It's 11-7. Hogan with 30 seconds left.
Abrams came to help out and thought better of it. Segley wants the...
yeah, he wanted the call.
Segley says, I didn't hit that ball, Mr. Official.
I don't think Hogan's passing's that bad.
No. And Segley has played a great game. He's been in a lot of situations. But but that time did not get the call.
Well, Blue Jays have 20 seconds to try to do something here.
Watch how quick Syracuse doubles here.
Got room.
And he scored. So the Blue Jays, Connor Danahan, with 10 seconds left in the third quarter, cut the lead to 3, 11-8. They're not going away.
I was trying to do some coaching for Syracuse there. You got to double the hot hand. Connor Danahan, his 4th goal, an obvious mismatch. There is no way that Dan Stessen at 5'9", 180 pounds is going to stay with this guy. They thought about going, you can't slide with your stick. Siglia just swings at him. And watch this little Olay here. Watch him pull it right there.
And Abrams comes over quick, but too late.
Exactly, too late with the body.
Boy, that's the 4th time he has knifed through the defense.
Unassisted.
He has answered the challenge. Connor Danahan played a superb game tonight.
Blue Jays' John Brasco with the long pole fired it from about midfield, and that's the end of the third quarter. So hang on. We got 1 to play. Syracuse 11, Hopkins 8. There you see stats through 3. Hopkins with a pretty good edge in shots, but as Quentin has mentioned, Syracuse really taking advantage of their shots.
Carcaterra played, Keith, as you mentioned during the break, Carcaterra played maybe the finest quarter we have ever seen him play.
There's a high check and a flag.
Free possession here for Syracuse, and a big one, and a real big one.
Got nothing to lose here.
Yeah.
Ryan Powell, like his brother, a master of working the officials. Anytime contact's made with the stick.
Oh, and Carcaterra again.
Anytime contact is made with the stick, he flings his head back. If we have a replay of this foul on the far side, you'll see the contact was not that severe, but Powell throws his head back to show the ref the contact was made, and the ref's by the call. Watch it again. See Testa, who's done a nice job. Contact's made right there, and again right there.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's easy for you to sit up here and say the contact, but that wasn't your head that was getting mangled by the stick.
I think it was worse the second time than the first time.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. That wasn't as flagrant in slow motion as it was in full speed,
right.
which is usually the opposite.
11-8, Syracuse with the man advantage in the lead, and there's a terrific goal. Ryan Powell spinning and firing in. And Hopkins, who had only given up 1 extra man goal all year long, not much Carcaterra could do except tip his hat to Ryan Powell. He's had 2 spectacular goals tonight.
Ryan Powell, extra man behind the back from Banks. You think this guy practices much around the cage, shooting on the goal maybe for 20, 30 minutes before and after practice every day?
That's unbelievable.
Watch the control, the whereabouts. Hey, where's the goal? Where are my teammates?
Pace,
where's the defense? Just perfect placement.
Instinct. It's instinct. A part of it's instinct. Knows where he is at all times.
He was the first guy out here. We got here early. You guys were doing that newscast. He was already on the field prior to 6 o'clock. He's out here more than 2 hours early, working on his shots. I saw him take shots at both goals. Out here with his Walkman on, taking his shots
the great
by
players,
himself.
Quinn.
Exactly.
Larry Bird used to do that. The great players. You hear the stories about Oscar Robertson coming out in basketball and shooting for 2 hours before a game. Cal takes an endless amount of ground balls.
You don't see that. We don't televise that, but that is a huge part of the stars where you get to this level.
Absolutely. It's not by accident.
Hopkins down 4. They need something good to happen.
There's a double team. Great play.
Oh, got it in front. Arnett couldn't finish it.
And Mulligan up for the task on that one.
And here comes Springer. Oh, right out in front. They had that play set up, but they couldn't get it to Glatzel.
Here comes DeConza.
Shot down low, wide right.
Boy, end to end, huh? This is Syracuse lacrosse right here.
That's the way they like. Mulligan is better the closer you get to the goal.
I agree. I agree.
This is another point blank, spectacular save. Harned comes in and he's just stuffed.
Boy, great play on all parties, particularly Mulligan. Great pass, great shot, great save.
And that one's on the money. Again, Mulligan comes up with the save. Connor Danahan with the shot.
And a great pass ahead by, I believe it was Abrams again.
And breaking to the goal, a shot and the score.
That's a loss.
On the run, Seglia hit him in stride, and he finished it. And the lead up to 5 at 13-8.
Seglia from Ryan Powell, the old school give and go. They bring the ball down the side. You'll see Seglia gives it to Ryan Powell and then cuts to the goal. Hogan a little late getting there, and Seglia cans it. In any sport, the give and go, basketball for instance, lacrosse, give it and cut to the goal. Simplest play in the book.
Most basic play you can see. And how many long stick defenders score goals? Well, Syracuse, quite a bit of them. Seglia can handle the stick and can run the field.
So Hopkins had closed to 11-8 after 3, but the first 2 goals here in the 4th quarter both belong to Syracuse, and the lead back up to 5.
And Quint, you mentioned that Syracuse can hurt you from so many different ways. Well, there's another one. You cannot let down at all against this offense.
They only have 1 extra man goal on the day, only 1 real transition goal. They've got 2 garbage goals, and the rest, which is untypical of Syracuse, are in half-field sets. Usually, historically, Syracuse has done the majority of their scoring in transition and extra man.
Yeah.
But this team,
And Danahan can't get the shot off. Good defense, and hang on, we got a whistle.
that's what makes this team so scary. It's going to be a loose ball push against Syracuse. Hopkins maintained possession. But that's why this Syracuse team is so dangerous, because they can beat you in the half-court offense.
We just saw a shot of John Glatzel, who you're familiar with, and he's joined on this club from Boys Latin by Tommy Nee and Michael Thomas from Boys Latin. Nick Fleischer, the 4th Baltimore kid from Perry Hall.
Trying to unload on the run was Frattarola.
But again, a defensive player.
Yeah, there's always somebody there. A stick on a shot. Somebody to throw you a step off.
Next year, Boys Latin will send Brian Nee also to Syracuse, so that's quite a pipeline that we've got going.
And Danahan double team, gives it up. Rabiano and Hubbard. And an unforced error there, as Rabiano just threw it wide. 11:48 left, 13-8 Syracuse. Syracuse first home game of the year. They started the season with a bang, winning at Virginia, and then won on a neutral site down in Florida last week.
Yes, Scott, they have survived a very difficult part of their schedule. They will play at Towson next week, 1 o'clock, next Saturday, I should say. So we'll get a chance to see them again next week, not on TV, but local fans.
We will get to see them on TV later this season.
Later this season, here against Loyola at the Dome.
And Loyola, you look at their schedule, they may be undefeated. That may be a battle of undefeated.
Boy,
could be 1 and 2 at that point.
Could be 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 if Virginia doesn't trip up. I would think that Loyola would bump up to 3.
Yeah, that's April 7th, guys.
A game we covered last year in Baltimore. Loyola beat Syracuse in a close game. I was impressed with Loyola's win over Duke last week. I was very impressed. Those kids played so hard.
Physical. You got a lot goes back. You got to look at what Dave Cottle did, losing all those seniors that he did, and to come back with that team.
Those kids challenged for every inch of that field on every play. They never let up for 15 seconds in that thing.
It's almost like you see right now in the NCAA basketball tournament where teams that aren't supposed to do well, lower seeds, just never give an inch.
That sense of urgency.
Absolutely. And I thought Hopkins played with a sense of urgency tonight when he came out. I thought they had that kind of fire that you need to beat this team.
And now Syracuse turns it over.
One of the few times they did, John Haas alluded to that at the half. Hey, we played tough, we played hard, yet we're still losing by 3. How good are these guys? I think he insinuated that this team that they're playing tonight is very, very good.
I read that too. He didn't seem that disappointed to be where he was at that point.
It's going to take a perfect game to beat Syracuse for Johns Hopkins. Virginia's got some talent.
Shook had to go up the ladder.
It's a good thing he's 6'3". There's Shaverly with a chance, guys, to go to the goal. Down 5 with 10 minutes left. Decided instead to take the cautious approach. I doubt if you'd see a Syracuse player do the same thing. What do you think?
Here's Hogan. He knows where to go, but they slide the double team out on him. A.J. tough angle, shot deflected again.
Another block shot. I don't know who got that. Whoever the sliding defender was. There's no stat for that.
I was going to say, I was going to ask if you keep stats for block shots. They have to have a dozen.
Block shots and deflected passes.
It's like hockey defensemen laying down in front of slap shots all the time.
Boy.
Keeper's best friend.
Oh, I tell you, if a guy blocked a shot, I was so happy. Another one.
Yeah, Hogan can't get it off.
Glatzel got his stick up on that one.
Danahan tries to get it in front.
Abrams got his stick on that one.
Shaverly now.
3 deflected passes in a row in this possession.
And they're making them work for every edge. Yeah. 13-8, Syracuse in control. 8:45 to play in the fourth quarter, and the shot taken by Dan Danahan.
Hopkins with the extra man after the foul by Stetson. Syracuse shutting off A.J. Hogan, as I thought they might earlier in the game.
And there's another shot with a stick on it, and only 8 seconds left on the extra man.
That shot right there is an example of why the statistic of shots is misleading. That shot had really a very low percentage, no chance. But yet that goes up on the board as a shot. You can see Hopkins now out shooting Syracuse 39-26. That doesn't tell the full story.
And they're back at equal strength. Arnett behind the goal. Up top, and there's a bouncer. You heard the follow-through. Shot got partially blocked on the follow-through, but Danahan had enough, and now penalty markers down after the goal.
Connor Danahan's 5th goal of the game. The teams were at even strength. He'll take the feed from Harned, step up, and just let this go from a severe angle. Mulligan, really the first bad goal he's given up all night. You've got to protect the near side. Mulligan actually turns, thinks it goes behind the cage. You can see he's upset, but Connor Danahan has come back in a big way.
Big-time game tonight by Danahan, Dan's younger brother.
He had a 5-goal game against Virginia in '99 and 5 here against a tough Syracuse team tonight. So he does some of his best work against good competition. And there's the head coach. He's not ready to throw in the towel.
Not at all.
John Haas, rather animated.
8:18 left. Plenty of time. 13-9 the score.
Now you get down to face-offs, guys. Yeah, you gotta have them when you're down 4.
The foul was against Johns Hopkins after the goal.
Okay.
And so it was a dead ball foul, some unsportsmanlike conduct. So Syracuse now has the extra man.
Boy, that's a bad mistake.
Unreleasable penalty for 1 minute.
So you not only don't have a chance to get possession, now you're playing down a man, and that's just a bad, not physical mistake. That's a mental error.
Don't open the door to this team.
You've got enough trying to take them on straight up, right?
Step up, John.
Don't really know what the penalty was, but as Quint said, somebody did something unsportsmanlike. And there's a break for the Blue Jays. They'll get possession. 30 seconds left. They're down a man.
Still
down 4 goals.
7.5 minutes. If you can easily get a goal a minute here.
Sure.
So 4-goal margin is really nothing.
You sound like the coach.
Was passed by Schwester to Shaverly. Nice clear there by Hopkins Quint with 15 seconds left on the penalty.
So the Jays, Ryan Quinn with it now.
Quinn hasn't played much because of an injury.
This is his first action of the season. Coming off a knee injury during preseason, and then he cut his finger in a freak accident in practice. These gloves are not cut open. They're covered in leather, but for somehow a stick check actually cut his finger. A real 1 in a million type injury.
Teams at equal strength. Tried to force it into the middle to Quinn. Ball still in play. And it goes Hopkins' way.
Oh, Glatzel with a terrific pickoff.
No doubt.
He goosed the ball past Danahan, and Danahan then held Glatzel's stick.
John Desko says, come on.
Danahan smiling.
Yeah, you
waving.
He got away with one, right?
Waving to mom and dad, who
6:57 left, 13-9 Syracuse.
Good crowd of Hopkins fans made the trip up here to Syracuse. Well represented.
Blue Jays need a goal.
Of course, Hopkins with an army of players from the New York area, not just central New York, but Long Island
for most of the team.
Yeah, Westchester County.
Blue Jays offense. Here's Hogan, draws the double team. Good look. There's a shot and a score. So the Blue Jays, Dan Denahan gets them within 3 at 13-10. So they're clawing back.
Denahan's second goal of the game. Nice ball movement. It seemed like they caused some confusion. Things were happening at a rapid pace. And when Denahan puts his head down and goes to the goal right here, tough to stop. Little stick fake. He turns the corner and a severe angle finds the back of the net. He is so strong, coming right-handed behind the cage. Watch this play. Quinn misses the goal. Alert back up by Denahan. Pump fake. Runs by Stessen. And then the accuracy.
Whedon and Syracuse in a key Toyota face-off here. And Whedon wins it.
Again, Whedon done a solid job tonight, Scott, on that face-off. Big one there.
So down 3. Hopkins has possession. Plenty of time left. 6:15. Hopkins down 8-5 at the half and 11-8 after 3.
5-3 run they're on right now.
They trail 13-8 and a penalty down. Hopkins is going to have a man advantage. Good look in front. Oh, and just missing the shot was Adam Doniger, the freshman.
Yeah, Quint, we're seeing Doniger and Quinn now on attack along with Denahan. So John Hall's trying to get some life in the offense, and right now it's working.
I think much like Loyola, Coach Hawes has got to play his top 6 players regardless of what their position is. We saw interchangeable parts by Loyola last week. Guys like Benson and Doniger, hey, they're freshmen. The second midfield isn't scoring. Just get these guys on the field. I don't care in what role you put them out there. But here's Doniger's shot. If we roll that forward, actually we're going to go to this extra man. But Doniger with a decent look in front.
Hopkins now with the extra man. Blue Jays down just 3 goals. A.J. Hogan, the All-American, going to work. Left-hand shot way off the mark. High and wide.
That is a bizarre play. Hopkins with the extra man. They're shutting off Hogan with Stessen. You can see if we open this camera angle up, you see Stessen's right on him. Actually, he's out of the screen right now to your left.
Yeah, you can see his feet.
And the Blue Jays trying to get it in front. It's loose. Long sticks going after it. And this is a key possession here.
Oh, crucial, Scott, crucial.
And Syracuse's Dan Stessen comes up with it. Oh, the push, and it's going back to Hopkins.
A push caught on
the fans
47, Jay Abendroth, and yeah, the fans not happy with that, but 20 seconds left in the penalty, it's still alive.
This is huge.
Jays down 3. Oh, they had a good look in front, and Connor Denahan couldn't handle the pass. Now Stessen got a hand on it. Whistle stops play. And it's going back to Hopkins with 6 seconds left on the extra man.
It looked like Denahan pulled the trigger too fast.
Look at Desko.
He's calling for the hold. When Connor Denahan checked Abrams, he really just yanked his arms down to the turf. It was a spectacular check. You better watch it right now.
Teams at even strength. I'm sorry, Scott.
Hopkins trying to claw back in this. It's 13-10, under 5 minutes left. Blue Jays missed a chance there. They had the extra man. Couldn't cash in, but there's a shot and a save by Mulligan as Hogan fired. Possession to Hopkins.
Good save by Mulligan. Coach Hawes on the near
Short
side wants a timeout.
All right, we're going to step out. 4:37 left. 13-10 Syracuse. Well, Hopkins has scored the last 2 goals in the game to cut it to 3. 4:34 left. 13-10 Syracuse on top. And each possession now becomes so exaggerated. John Hawes talking to the officials, looking for clarification. Pointing up to the scoreboard now. Any idea, guys?
No, it looked like Hawes was warned by one of the officials at the scorer's table.
Call him up. Tell him we're going.
Maybe there's a question about the clock.
I think there might be a question about the timeouts remaining. Yeah,
timeouts
right now. Giving him credit for only 1 timeout remaining.
Gets a little more complicated with the TV timeout.
They're putting 3 seconds back on the clock. So
okay,
you can 4:37. Right now it's 4:37, not 4:34.
The issue was time, and this, of course, is Syracuse's home field.
Are you saying they could be suspect?
I'm not saying that at all.
All right, here come the Blue Jays. Dan Denahan and a penalty marker down. Looking in front. Jumper off the mark. Rabiano. And Hopkins going to go back a man up.
Syracuse really opening the door.
Absolutely. And Hopkins resilient here in the last 5-6 minutes. Just keep coming.
Denahan got choked.
Glatzel with the hook. Denahan just putting pressure on Glatzel. Rabiano then takes that shot. A natural lefty, trying to make that as a right-hander very difficult.
4:29 left, a 30-second advantage for the Blue Jays.
The shutoff of A.J. Hogan, you see in the top portion of your screen right there, has been effective.
Oh, they threw it away, trying to get it to Denahan, and Harnett threw it over his head. Denahan is beside himself. Missed opportunities. And flying upfield. That's Stetson. He's got some speed.
And Sean Nadlin with a great place got to run him out of bounds.
They call a timeout. They got a timeout in, apparently.
Syracuse calls timeout, so John Desko does what John Haas does, senses a unsettled situation and does a wise job of calling timeout with 4:07 left in the game.
All right, let's take a look. Quint touchdown, the precision tune, keys to the game. What do you see?
For Hopkins, they have not cured the second midfield Blues. 0 goals, 0 assists today. Pummel Powell, they've done a decent job on Powell, 2 goals, but the Syracuse other attack have really been devastating. Springer with 3, Banks with 3, Ryan Powell has 3. Syracuse avoid overconfidence. They came out a little too overconfident, I thought. Gave Hopkins a 3-1 lead, but they've played really focused and intense since. And then stay out of the penalty box. 5 or 6 fouls, below their season average. Hopkins with only 2 extra man goals. That hasn't been the story of the game.
Well, the key is Syracuse, those last 2 penalties didn't cost them. They didn't allow Hopkins to cash in and get within 2 with about 5 minutes left.
And Hopkins has outshot Syracuse 44-26, which means that Syracuse is hitting 50% of their shots tonight. That's
and Carcaterra played an outstanding third quarter.
Yeah, Brian has kept them in the game without a doubt. Dan Denahan is trying to right now on the offensive end, but Carcaterra's second half has been excellent. And they'll need to step up here on the defensive end again.
9 seconds left on the extra man.
You see the clock there. 6 seconds and counting. Ooh. Nadlin again, and there's a penalty.
A little late, but he tripped him up. Crashing down was Matt Keone.
Watch it in the end zone. Quadre Ismail territory for Syracuse back there. Nadlin just gets his stick between his legs. The speed of Syracuse, so dangerous in those situations. Keone, just an absolute burner. Dan Stetson, the road runner, went back 90 yards in the far side.
Now, I wasn't going to say this until the door was open, but, you know, what wasn't our trivia question? 2 former Baltimore Colts to play lacrosse at Syracuse.
Excellent
John
question.
Mackey and Joe Ehrman. Mackey, of course, a Hall of Famer. Joe, member of the Sack Pack. Jim Brown, of course, played here. We talked about that before. How would you like to be a midfielder standing in Jim Brown's way?
Woo. Great question.
13-10, time a factor. 3:40 left to play.
At that time, guys, Joe Ehrman was saying they played lacrosse to stay in condition for football. There was no spring football at that time.
And there was no dome either. It's 25 degrees out there right now.
And winds blowing at 30 miles an hour. Michael Springer, haven't said much about him in the second half because basically Hopkins has had most of the possessions, especially here in the fourth quarter.
10 seconds left in the penalty. Obviously, Syracuse content to take the air out of the ball here with a 3-goal lead, 3 minutes left.
Spread them out, and here come the Blue Jays back at full strength.
The turnover on the extra man. Harnett's pass over Denahan's head.
And there's another penalty. Ryan Powell had it checked away.
Brasco.
Yeah, he's upset with the call, but John Brasco is going to sit out, the sophomore from Springfield, Pennsylvania.
This is the kayak. 2 kayaks in 1 game. Watch it right there.
Yeah.
The ball comes out quickly. That's why I'm surprised it was a hold call. And what a superb check. Just dislodging the ball. You can see him use that butt end. Terrific. That'll be in one of our highlight tapes, I guarantee it.
Did he get him in the face?
He called a hold.
The all-Quint team right there, right?
That was a check. I like that check.
You do prefer the kayaks, though. I notice you get excited every time you see a kayak. 2:40 left.
I want to see that on Sunday at Towsontown and all the kids at Lutherville throwing kayaks. I'm sure all the rec league coaches love seeing that.
And here come the Blue Jays. There's Carcaterra.
Hey, why not? You make something happen. 2:30 left in the game, down 3. No time for being conservative now, fellas.
13-10 Syracuse. They trailed after the first quarter 3-2, but then opened up an 8-5 halftime lead, led 11-8 after 3.
Still, you get a goal here. It's still certainly a workable margin.
And Denahan looking things over, bounces it down low. Mulligan makes the save.
Hopkins had a lot of success from that angle tonight, though, Quint.
Yeah.
It's obvious they're looking for that.
Coming around the right side.
Arnott getting worked over pretty good by Marshall Abrams.
That was too easy.
That was almost effortless. Yeah. Look what I got. 1:33 left. Oh boy, to throw some sticks. Oh, there's the hit of the night. Penalty marker down. And the Blue Jays getting up real slow is A.J. Hogan because he took a vicious shot. That was number 7 on the check. Billy St. George.
This is absolutely flagrant.
Oh!
Up with the elbow to the head. Hogan's okay. Thank God.
It's a good thing he's a big, strong guy. You mentioned football with Eric Wheaton. AJ also a football player in high school, but whoa! Did Billy St. George level him?
St. George should be kicked out of the game for that. Blatantly up in the jaw.
Boy, AJ Hogan says I'm okay. Woo.
He is a tough kid.
And again, though, 13-10, the door's open for a quick extra man if they can pull it off. 1-minute penalty.
And here's Hogan just shaking the cobwebs off. Back in possession. Looking up front and throws it away. We've got a push call. Wait.
Boy, the calls are certainly going Hopkins' way.
Tried to force it into Harnett that time, Keith. Looked like a lot of defense around. There's a bouncer. Mulligan again comes up with the save. And Syracuse in possession with a minute left.
Springer stepped out of the, you see the dotted line. He must stay inside the box.
Desco, you see, trying to get the timeout.
Desco wanted timeout.
But that hit, I like the hit, but the high hit there scares me because Lacrosse doesn't need to get involved with high hits. There's enough head injuries happening in other sports. The referees, I believe, have to make a serious move to getting the hits down low.
Maybe a flagrant call for a
flagrant call.
Oh, and there's a shot and a score from a tough angle. A.J. Hogan, he took a shot and now he delivered a shot. So Hogan keeps Hopkins alive. 13-11 with 45 seconds left, and give him credit for not only being a great player but a tough player.
Yeah, Scotty, you're right. You can see he is hurting. You can just see him kind of nodding, but what a tough player.
I tell you, he comes right back to double teams there, and he beats Mulligan. Syracuse should not stop playing. 45 seconds to go here. Whedon can pop 2 faceoffs. Takes him about 8 seconds to score. We saw Princeton score a goal last week in 7 seconds.
45 left. Whedon trying to win the draw.
And he does.
Eric Whedon, 13-11 game. Hopkins
with 1 timeout left.
They still have life. And John Haas takes the timeout, stops the clock with 33 seconds to play. They need 2 to tie. It's a reach, but it isn't impossible.
Absolutely. Quint, John Haas has to be real happy with the way his team has come back. They could have folded the 10 up here at the Dome in front of this crowd. Partisan, obviously, crowd of 7,000, but they didn't. And they're fighting. A.J. Hogan just took a licking, came back. He's exhausted from running up and down the field all night, and then scores a huge goal with 30 seconds left.
I'll tell you what, guys, what Hopkins has done is showed some real grit. Whether they come back to win this game or not, this is going to help them throughout the season because they're taking on #1 in their house and playing them right down to the final seconds.
They could have quit at 10-5. They could have quit at 13-8. Hey, Syracuse is a talented ball club, but the improvement, we're starting to see some improvement from some players on Hopkins, which is going to bode well for them. And it's always been a signature of John Hawes. His teams get better as the season progresses.
And there's Hogan, who took that vicious hit and then came back, stayed in the game, and scored the goal to get them within 2. 33 seconds left. Some of the fans on their feet cheering the Orange men as they come back up, but they've seen a good lacrosse game tonight. Hopkins in possession, time running out. You can't dance around too much. You got to go right to the goal.
Nice pass.
And a left-hander shoots and scores. Bobby Benson, the freshman from McDonough, hang on. They're within 1 with 19 seconds, and now Eric Whedon's got to win another faceoff.
That was the identical play they did early in the game. It's a double pick, and you see the action from right to left, leaving Benson wide open, and this time the freshman makes it count. So the time off for Hopkins pays off. They get the ball up top, get the double team. You talk about a crucial face-off.
Look at Whedon as he walks out.
Whedon
to face off, just a real strut about it. Let's go to work.
Let's do it.
Out of timeouts. Hopkins out of timeouts.
Toyota face-off, the most important in the game, and John Desko wants a timeout. 19 ticks left, and boy, we've had a good one for you tonight.
It's ending up great, Scott. It's as advertised.
4 goals in a row by Hopkins. Connor Denahan's 5th of the game, then Dan, and then Hogan, and then Benson on the great set play. Hawes calls a timeout. They execute and make it happen.
I thought Connor could have taken a shot. You couldn't have blamed him. He has 5 goals tonight, but he made the extra pass, showed confidence in a freshman.
And you can see Benson, the poise he showed. He had Mulligan beat on the earlier shot. It just hit him in the foot.
Whedon hasn't gone into the Hopkins huddle. He's just walking circles down there. He wants to go and win a face-off and give his team a chance to tie and get a shot of him. He's still walking around the huddle. Doesn't want to hear what anybody else has to say. He's got one job right now. There he is. Win the face-off. And now one of the coaches steps over. But he's almost like a pitcher with a no-hitter going. You don't want to say anything. Just leave me alone. I'll get this thing done, and then you guys get a goal.
What do you think Brian Volker just said to him, Quint?
Wipe the snot off your nose. I mean, he is just, he is absolutely fired up. Hopkins will set up in their fast break on offense. Defensively, if Whedon loses it, they're just going to go try to double the ball.
Attack the ball,
19 seconds. There isn't much time for the ball to be on the ground here.
No margin for error. Eric Whedon done a great job tonight on face-offs to begin with.
And the fans are up, and here we go. 19 ticks left, 13-12. Whedon against Searcy. Hopkins with a shot if they can win the face-off to tie it up, and Whedon working hard. Searcy scoops it back, and Syracuse up with it. Loose ball.
10 seconds left.
And timeout call. Let's see who had possession there.
There's no timeouts left.
It's a foul against Syracuse, a loose ball push.
6 seconds left. Hopkins with possession.
They ran some time off the clock. That's why the Hopkins fans are booing.
What do you do here? In a hurry. They throw it up near the goal. It's loose. Benson was there.
Oh, there it is.
Hands on it, and he scores! Benson scored. The clock shows zeros. Let's see, does it count?
No goal.
No goal.
No goal, says the official down below. Hopkins can't believe it. John Haas is running around, and this is one of the wildest finishes you're ever going to see. Benson scored. The Hopkins players laying down on the field. They can't believe they've lost a heartbreaker. The officials apparently ruled.
The problem, when this whole play started, I looked up at the clock after the foul. I saw 10 seconds. When they restarted it, there was 6 seconds on the clock. Now, I think the referees got the call right. By the time the ball went in, let's take a look.
Let's take a look and watch the time here as Benson was loose. The ball was loose. He didn't find it right away, then spotted it. You see the spin on the ball.
They made the right call there, I think. I think they made the right call there. My question is, on the foul that happened in the Hopkins defensive end, I don't know if we have that replay, and the clock showing, I thought that they ran some time off the clock on the previous foul.
What's the rule? Does the shot have to be off, or does it have to be in the net?
Has to be over the goal line when the clock, before the clock shows zero.
It's in the net.
So it's still in, it's in his stick there. So they made the right call there. My question is on the previous foul. I don't know if we have a replay off the face-off. I looked up at the clock and I saw 10 seconds. Next thing I knew, I looked up and I saw 6 seconds.
Wow, unbelievable finish. Both teams are in huddles right now. The game is over.
13-12.
John Haas has taken his jacket off, obviously frustrated. His team came from so far behind. In his eyes, they tied the game up, though it was clearly after the clock had expired.
Bobby Benson got him there and just about tied it up, about a half a second too late. And you see the frustration over on the Hopkins side, but what a terrific game we had here tonight. We'll be back right after this.
The Toyota Lacrosse Game of the Week, brought to you by Toyota, making it happen every day. CollegeLacrosseUSA.com, the definitive source. STX Lacrosse, we live it, we breathe it, we build it. And Warrior, the means to dominate.
Well, as good a game as you're going to see. Number 1 Syracuse hangs on as Hopkins comes roaring from behind. Appeared to have tied it. Replay showed that they probably made the right call about a half a second too late. But here, Quint, take us through this.
Well, this is the last 19 seconds, the last face-off. My question was, you'll see a Syracuse foul coming up right there, the push. Now, the whistle blows somewhere in here. I think the whistle had to blow earlier, and they start the next play with 6 seconds. So
anywhere from 11 to 8 seconds, the whistle could have blew, and the clock was restarted at 6 seconds.
If they restarted at 7, Benson's goal probably would have counted.
Absolutely.
And that, again, we're not pointing fault at the referees. That's not their call. It's the timekeeper.
Sure.
It's the guy with his finger on the start and stop button who makes that call. The Cullen brothers, who are the officials tonight, did a superb job and got the call right at the end. It was amazing that they got that right.
And then this is the one that appeared maybe to have tied it. Bobby Benson finds a loose ball, and the freshman from McDonough fires it in. Hopkins celebrating, but then the officials rule. There you see everybody saying goal, but they would rule that time had expired.
Right, there's 2 officials around the play there, but there's also an official at the box area, the substitution area, who's looking directly at the clock, and he made the call, which was a correct call.
Yes.
Well, Keith, a tough loss for Hopkins, but a game they actually can build on.
I think John Haas is telling his team right now, Scott, hey, listen, you did a great job tonight.
Today's LacrosseUSA.com play of the game.
Ryan Powell scored his 100th goal, and then watch this behind the back. Oh, actually, this is his 100th goal, one-handed between the legs. Ryan Powell, the CLUSA.com play of the game.
And today's Warrior player of the game, Keith.
Yeah, well, Ryan Powell, 2 goals, 3 goals, 2 assists. Connor Danahan had 5 goals for Hopkins, but Syracuse won. Ryan Powell, the All-American, is the Warrior player of the game.
So number 1 Syracuse over Hopkins tonight, 13-12 from the Dome. We're back Sunday as UMBC plays at Georgetown. Good night, everybody.